Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. Upon hearing Goten's words, Paragus' eyes twitched uncontrollably. A look of worry flashed across his face, quickly replaced by a fierce determination in his eyes. About 2 months ago, he had discovered the energy signature of this Saiyan hybrid boy through advanced monitoring technology due to an alert caused by a huge clash of two energy signatures. The data showed that the fighters possessed immense strength, surpassing all Saiyans from planet Vegeta, including King Vegeta himself. After sending scouts to gather information, he found out all the information about the boy and decided to visit the planet to deal with the boy. Paragus already knew that if Goten wished, he could eliminate them with a mere flick of his fingers. Therefore, he felt that it was best to stay away from him as far away as possible. However, he harbored grand ambitions. To rule the universe. This boy could potentially become a hindrance to his plans. His terrifying potential and strength at such a young age were alarming. If allowed to mature, the repercussions could be catastrophic. Thus, Paragus' plan was to eliminate him before he could fully grow. Despite the boy's current strength, Paragus was confident that he was no match for his son, Broly. His intention was to use Broly to eradicate this half-blood nuisance, clearing all obstacles in his path to universal domination. "Are you Kakarot's son?" Paragus asked. "I was once a close comrade of your grandfather, Bardock." He continued, "I've sought you out because you carry the blood of the Saiyans and possess great power. I believe you have the potential and capability to rebuild our Saiyan race and ascend as the new Saiyan King. This is also the purpose of my visit. Please do not reject my humble request." With these words, Paragus knelt on one knee. He appeared quite sincere. However, Goten, being a transmigrator, was well aware of his true intentions. Paragus might not be strong, but he was ambitious. With Broly's formidable talent, he likely already ruled the entire Southern Galaxy. To rule the universe, he needed to eliminate all obstacles, and Goten had become one such obstacle in his eyes. "Oh, King of Saiyans?" Goten responded with a playful smile. "Sounds intriguing." He didn't care about the title of King of Saiyans. In the vast universe, the title was insignificant and couldn't bring him any benefits. In this dangerous world, what truly mattered was absolute power. Goten wasn't particularly interested in becoming King of Saiyans, but he was interested in Broly. That guy had the legendary Saiyan bloodline. With that mutated bloodline, his power increased daily, even without training. If Goten could acquire his mutated bloodline, his strength would undergo a significant transformation. Through the system's capabilities, he might be able to acquire that bloodline in a battle with Broly. "Yeah," Paragus quickly agreed. "As long as you ascend as the King of Saiyans, the entire universe will bow at your feet. We, your subjects, will naturally follow your lead." In truth, Paragus had initially planned to bring Broly directly to Earth to eliminate Goten. However, once Broly lost control, he would transform into an uncontrollable fighting machine without any conscience. Earth, with its favorable living conditions, was an ideal base for him after he conquered the universe. It would be regrettable if it were destroyed during the battle. Hence, he decided against bringing Broly directly. "Rule the universe? That sounds fantastic." Goten responded after feigning hesitation. "Alright, I accept your proposal." The allure of Broly's mutated bloodline was indeed irresistible. "It's wonderful." An excited look appeared on Paragus' face. "Our base camp is in the Southern Galaxy. Do you need to prepare?" Internally, he was overjoyed. He had expected to put in some effort, but to his surprise, Goten was swayed by a few words. He assumed Goten was dreaming of becoming a king. He dismissed Goten as a naive child who was easily deceived. Little did he know that upon reaching the Southern Galaxy, it would be his end. "No need for preparations. I can't wait," Goten retorted nonchalantly. Indeed, he couldn't wait to experience the power of the legendary Super Saiyan. While he was at it, he could even acquire the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline, which would undoubtedly yield substantial benefits. "Great! If this is the case, then let's hurry over." Paragus was equally impatient. He really couldn't wait to rule the universe. The environment on this planet is indeed good. After this half-breed brat is completely eliminated, this place will be made into our base camp. He thought to himself, as for the humans on this planet, they will be completely wiped out. "My esteemed king, please come on the spaceship with us." Paragus implored, standing upright and placing his right hand over his heart in a gesture of great respect. However, the moment Goten turned his back, a sinister grin stealthily crept onto his face. In no time, everyone embarked on the galactic spaceship. With a thunderous roar, the galactic spacecraft departed Earth within mere seconds. The journey to the southern galaxy, even aboard a galactic spaceship, equipped with the most advanced technology, would span a full 3 days. 3 days later, under Paragus's guidance, Goten successfully arrived at a desolate planet in the southern galaxy. The planet appeared barren, devoid of any signs of life. The only discernible key signatures were concentrated in one location, indicating that apart from Paragus's soldiers, there were no other survivors on this planet. "Paragus, is this the new planet Vegeta you've been seeking?" Goten asked, glancing around. "I must say, your choice leaves much to be desired." Paragus immediately responded with respect. "Indeed, my lord, this planet is relatively desolate. However, it aligns with our Saiyan nature. Once you ascend to the throne, we can certainly choose a more suitable planet." Being pointed at by a little brat really made him very angry. But this anger would soon subside, as it won't be long before this boy completely vanished from the world. Soon after, the entire world would be under his control. As they continued their journey, they came across a building after a few minutes of traversing a winding mountain path. The building, like the planet, was bare, devoid of any signs of life. At the entrance stood several figures, mostly galactic soldiers serving Paragus. Goten paid them no mind. His attention was drawn to a familiar figure, Broly. Broly, towering over 2 meters tall, wore golden hoops around his neck and limbs. Between his eyebrows was a device to control his mental stability, a measure implemented by Paragus to manage Broly's rampages. His eyes were extremely calm, and he looked a little timid. As Goten observed Broly, Broly returned the gaze. His previously calm demeanor shifted instantly, revealing a fierce expression. At that moment, all the galactic soldiers knelt down in unison to greet Goten. "We greet King Goten." Only Broly remained standing, his gaze fixed on Goten, his teeth bared, resembling an awakened ancient beast. A powerful murderous aura erupted from his body in an instant. Paragus, who noticed this, immediately called out to his son, using the controller in his hand to manage Broly's mood and energy. The controller between Broly's eyebrows flashed brightly, and soon Broly's demeanor changed again. His fierce expression was replaced by a calm and delicate look. Others might not know what caused this hostility from Broly, but Goten understood what had happened. He bore a striking resemblance to Goku, and being Goku's son, his key signature was also similar. It seemed that Broly had mistaken Goten for Goku. "King Goten, please forgive him. He is my son, Broly. His mood can be unpredictable at times," Paragus explained to Goten. Goten looked away from Broly, then looked at Paragus. "Old man, there's no need for you to pretend anymore. You lured me here with the intention of using your son to kill me, didn't you?" "Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, you think I'm oblivious?" Goten retorted calmly. "What?" Paragus was taken aback. Although his intentions were indeed, as Goten described, and his son was the legendary Super Saiyan, he had never disclosed this information to anyone, not even his subordinates. He wondered how Goten knew so much, and if he already knew his purpose, why he had willingly followed him to this planet. Since this brat knew about the legendary Super Saiyan, he must know how powerful Broly was. Why would he willingly throw his life away? Was he foolish enough to believe that he could defeat the legendary Saiyan Broly? Meanwhile, on King Kai's planet, Goku and others who were in the other world were closely monitoring Goten's movements. They had a pale golden halo above their heads. Death for the protagonist group was a common occurrence in DragonBall. It was never an end for them. Goten knows that Paragus has ill intentions. Why would he willingly follow Paragus to that place? Gohan was very puzzled, then looked at Goku and Vegeta, seeking an answer. Under King Kai's ability, they could clearly hear the conversation between Goten and Paragus. "I'm not sure," Goku replied, shaking his head. "Perhaps Goten wants to fight Broly, because he's the legendary Super Saiyan, and is very powerful." Goten, possessing power beyond all of them and a terrifyingly strong talent, had already transformed into the form of Super Saiyan Goku before turning 10. This transformation was achieved solely through his own strength, a feat incomparable to the three of them. When he defeated Cell in mere seconds using Ultra Instinct, they had never witnessed the transformation. Even in the other world, they had never encountered that sort of strength. Ha! Do you think that kid is you, Kakarot? Vegeta interjected, folding his arms across his chest. That kid is much smarter than you. He's not just out to fight a formidable opponent. Watch closely. He might become even stronger next time. Even after staying in the other world for 8 years, his arrogant attitude had not changed at all.
Ah, is that so?
Goku responded, scratching the back of his head naively. Then I'm really curious. It's infuriating. This kid has no one to guide him in training, yet his progress is so rapid, Vegeta grumbled, clenching his fists in frustration. He continued, even if one adds the 2 years he spent in the hyperbolic time chamber, he's only 9 years old, and yet his strength has already reached this level. What was more vexing was that Goten had never encountered a worthy opponent before he met Cell. There was no one to guide him in training. Yet, under such conditions, he had become so strong, his combat talent was unimaginable. Vegeta's irritation grew as he glanced at young Trunks standing beside him. Young Trunks was a year older than Goten. However, since becoming a Super Saiyan 2 years ago, Trunks had shown little improvement. He hadn't even reached the full power of Super Saiyan, let alone Super Saiyan 2. Vegeta's displeasure was exacerbated by the fact that Goten was Goku's son. He always found himself being compared to Kakarot, and the same was true for their sons. Gohan, Goku's eldest son, was clearly talented and far surpassed Trunks in potential. Now, even Goku's youngest son was proving to be extraordinary. Could it be that he, a Saiyan genius with royal blood, was truly inferior to Goku, a low-caste warrior? It's not surprising, Piccolo interjected, looking at the disgruntled Vegeta. To be honest, Goten is much more disciplined than Gohan. He has been training diligently since he was 4 years old, persisting for a full 4 or 5 years. Not everyone has this kind of perseverance. Besides, Goten was just a kid at the time. To be honest, he admired Goten very much for this. He recalled how he had to force Gohan to start training when he was 4 years old. Gohan had often thought about running away. His determination to train was not firm at all, even when forced. Piccolo is absolutely right, Goku agreed, nodding seriously. Goten is indeed very self-disciplined. Even I feel I am lacking as compared to him in diligence. If he hadn't had so many teachers to guide him, he would probably still be a savage living in Mount Pazu. At this moment, Paracus dropped his pretense. He had brought Goten to Broly. As long as Broly killed Goten, no one would be able to stop him from ruling the universe. Ha ha ha, kid, you are much smarter than I thought, and you seem to know a lot. But so what? Since you have come here, this is where you will be buried. Paragus laughed wildly, addressing Goten. As long as his son Broly took action, it was absolutely impossible for anyone to survive. Will I? Goten retorted, glancing at Paragus coldly. I don't know if this is my burial place, but I can be sure that you will die here soon. A piece of trash, with only 4,000 combat power, he could easily destroy him. The moment Goten finished speaking, he turned his head directly and grabbed Paragus by the neck. Feeling instantly enveloped in death, Paragus panicked and ordered Broly. Broly, hurry up and stop the brat. Finish him right now. Yay, Kakarot. The moment Paragus's voice fell, Broly's originally calm expression became irritable. His black hair began to move without wind, and a powerful wave of air spread out in all directions. The surrounding people were instantly blown away, and some died on the spot. Although he hadn't transformed yet, Broly's power was much stronger than these galactic outlaws, whose combat power was only hundreds or thousands of points. Kakarot. Broly roared again, and vibrant green flames suddenly appeared around his body. His black hair also stood on end in an instant. Pesky brat slowly experienced the fear that is more desperate than hell. Broly will make you die in fear. Little by little, Paragus shouted crazily. No warrior could match his son, even if this half-breed kid did have talent and strength beyond most. Your incessant babbling is really annoying. Goten's impatient voice fell, and the palm of his hand instantly gathered energy. Be gone! The moment the energy blasted out, Paragus's body disappeared without a trace, like a snowflake falling in the flames. A Saiyan with only 4,000 points of combat power. Goten could effortlessly destroy him. There was no ability to resist at all. Roar. Broly roared again at this time, and the whole planet shook violently. In fact, the Broly in front of him was similar to the original DBZ Broly, who had no emotion. For him, family affection had no value at all. In the movie version, the rampant Broly even offed his father himself. And the Broly in the new DBS movie version paid more attention to emotion than the Broly in front of him. At least after seeing his father killed, he would be angry and go on a rampage. But this Broly in front of him obviously was indifferent to Paragus' death. He was still yelling Goku's Saiyan name. Russell. At this time, the vibrant green aura around Broly's body became even more violent. His black hair also turned dark purple. This was Broly's form that mimicked Super Saiyan. After feeling the extremely powerful aura, Goten didn't dare to slack off. Clenching his fists, accompanied by a low growl, he instantly transformed into the full power form of Super Saiyan. Kapkura. Broly growled again. His body rushed at Goten. His speed was very fast, and his attacking moves were not fancy. A straight punch hurled towards Goten. "Bring it on!" Goten challenged. "Let me take a good look at how strong the legendary Super Saiyan Broly is." Goten pursed his lips and then greeted him with a punch as well. Boom. The moment the fists of the two combatants collided, a massive sonic boom rippled outwards. The palace that stood behind Broly crumbled instantly. Paragus' soldiers, who had narrowly survived until now, were obliterated by the terrifying shockwave, their bodies reduced to dust. A vast crater appeared on the ground, its interior laced with spiderweb-like cracks. Sha! Goten's body was sent flying, tumbling backward for several tens of feet before finally coming to a halt. In stark contrast, Broly remained unmoved, seemingly unaffected by the collision. A look of concern crossed Goten's face. The impact of their clash felt as though he had struck a slab of steel. The legendary Saiyan, Broly, not only possessed an extraordinary talent for combat, but also boasted a body of incredible strength, making him an ideal candidate for mastering Ultra Instinct. Even though Broly had only just transformed into a Super Saiyan state and had yet to achieve the full transformation, his power was already formidable. It was inconceivable that Goku and others faced this monstrous enemy in the movie version. If not for the plot armor of the protagonist group, Goku and the others would have been annihilated. Broly roared again, his desire for battle evidently stimulated by the fight. Accompanied by his roars, the vibrant green aura surrounding Broly surged once more. Simultaneously, a massive vibrant green energy ball began to condense from his chest. Broly's fighting style lacked any finesse or technique. It was simply a display of his inexhaustible energy. In the blink of an eye, the energy ball grew to the size of several basketballs and was then hurled directly at Goten. Is this the power of a legendary Saiyan? Goten wondered, shocked. It's absurdly strong. Even Cell in his full-powered form wouldn't stand a chance against him. As Goten's face had a look of solemnity. His body flashed for an instant, disappearing from the spot. Rumble! The ground where he had stood was blasted into a massive sinkhole by the vibrant green energy ball. A semicircle of energy, visible to the naked eye, rose from the ground. Gittenra appeared in midair, his fists clenched tightly. Blue electric arcs flickered around his body, his golden hair stood on end, and the aura around him transformed into a jet of flames. He had transformed into Super Saiyan 2. From Broly's energy, it was clear that Goten couldn't hope to match him with only the full power form of Super Saiyan. The gap in their strength was vast. If Broly were to learn some fighting techniques, his power would be unimaginably formidable. More importantly, Broly's aura seemed to be expanding rapidly with each passing moment. Roar! Broly continued to roar wildly, releasing one green energy ball after another. The surrounding mountain peaks crumbled one after another, and huge pits appeared all over the ground. The once desolate planet was now a scene of utter devastation, resembling a purgatory on Earth. As his power continued to grow, Broly underwent another transformation. His purple-tinted hair turned vibrant green, and his eyes became vacant, devoid of any pupils. It appeared as though he had completely lost his mind. This was Broly's unique transformation. His aura had undergone a drastic change from before. Is this the legendary Super Saiyan form? Goten wondered. This overwhelming aura is simply incomparable to Super Saiyan 2. It's unbelievable that Goku was able to defeat this monster in the movie version after absorbing Vegeta and Gohan's energy. Feeling the overwhelming sense of oppression, Goten was filled with dread. After personally experiencing this powerful aura, he was even more convinced that Broly's defeat in the movie version was due to the plot armor of the protagonist and also due to the length of time in the movie. At that time, Goku and Gohan could only achieve the full power form of Super Saiyan. As for Vegeta and others, they were even weaker. The idea that Goku could punch through Broly's body with all the energy they had given him was laughable. Broly was originally over 2 meters tall. Goten already looked like a kid in front of him. The stark contrast in their sizes was glaringly obvious. After his transformation, Broly had grown to a height of over 3 meters, resembling a giant. Having completed his transformation, Broly ceased his beast-like growling. Although his eyes were still empty, it was clear that he had regained his sanity. However, he had also transformed into a primal beast driven solely by the urge to kill. His vacant eyes turned to Goten, a bloodthirsty grin spreading across his face. In a voice that sounded like it belonged to a devil, he said, "I know you're not Kakarot, but I sense the same energy from you as I do from him. Besides, you look so much like Kakarot, so I'll enjoy tearing you apart nonetheless." The moment his devilish words fell, Broly's body lunged towards Goten again. His speed had undergone a qualitative change. His towering figure resembled a mountain brimming with raw power and muscle. His body, akin to forged steel, exuded an aura of unyielding strength, with skin as tough as iron and bones as unbreakable as steel. Looking at him, one couldn't help but feel a sense of helplessness. The oppressive feeling he exuded was simply too intense. Meanwhile, on King Kai's small planet, initially King Kai's planet had been destroyed by the explosion of the cell. However, in the past 8 years, he had rebuilt a small planet by himself. It was about the same as before, and was basically same in all aspects. During these 8 years, Goku and Vegeta had been practicing here with the special approval of King Yenma. At this moment, while listening to Broly's conversation with Goten, Goku was quite speechless. What's going on? That Saiyan named Broly seems to have a deep hatred for me, but I've never met him, let alone fought him. Do you know what's going on, Vegeta? Goku asked, looking at Vegeta with an innocent expression. After all, Vegeta was the prince of the Saiyans. Perhaps he would know something about Broly. How would I know? I've never even heard the name Broly. Vegeta replied irritatedly, turning his head away. However, his self-confidence had taken a hit. He was the genius of the Saiyans, the proud prince of the Saiyans. It was one thing to be surpassed by Goku. He had almost gotten used to it over the years. But now there was another Saiyan, Broly. These strong guys just kept popping one after another. It seemed to have no end. Then what the hell is his problem? Goku continued to scratch his head in confusion. At that moment, Goten, who was watching Broly charge towards him, muttered, "Your attack method is too direct." His eyes hardened, and he raised his right hand high. A touch of golden energy instantly condensed in his right hand high. A touch of golden energy instantly condensed in his palm, transforming into a round blade. Destructo Disca blade, he declared. Krillin's unique technique, the Destructo Disc, might not be of much use against an overwhelmingly powerful opponent if used in a frontal clash. However, Broly's fighting style was rudimentary, devoid of strategy or thought. Perhaps the Destructo Disc could inflict some damage on him. After all, a rampaging Saiyan like Broly wouldn't dodge such an attack. As expected, Broly charged towards Goten at full speed, showing no intention of avoiding the Destructo Disc. Just as the Destructo Disc was about to hit him, Broly let out a sudden roar. Roar! With his roar, the vibrant green aura around his body surged, abruptly blocking the Destructo Disc with the aura flames around him and leaving Goten in utter surprise. The Destructo Disc was well known for its ability to cause real damage, but it was blocked by Broly's aura flames. Crack! Just as Goten was reeling in surprise, a crisp sound echoed as cracks appeared on the 10 pieces of the Destructo Disc. In the blink of an eye, it disintegrated into golden starlight and disappeared. Unfazed, Broly continued his charge towards Goten. His attack was straightforward. When he jabbed, Goten quickly raised his arms to block. The moment he was hit, he felt as if he was bludgeoned by a massive hammer, instantly. A tingling sensation spread through both his arms, and his body retreated uncontrollably. His feet scraped against the ground, and he retreated 100 feet before stopping. Broly flipped his palm, and a vibrant green energy instantly condensed. He then hurled it directly at Goten. The moment the energy ball was released, it split into a dozen smaller energy balls, resembling a shotgun blast. Goten didn't dare to slack off in the slightest. He jumped up and the ground exploded almost simultaneously. Rumble, countless craters formed again. It looks like I will have to compete head-on with this guy, Goten thought, his face extremely serious. If I draw out the fight for too long, I won't be able to beat Broly at all. A protracted war might be a good tactic against an ordinary person, but against Broly, it would only lead to a passive situation. Broly's strength would continue to increase as the battle progressed, and his energy would continue to improve. It was equivalent to a continuous increase in strength during the battle. Fighting a protracted battle with such a guy was no different from courting death. It had to be done quickly. If the Super Saiyan 2 form couldn't defeat Broly, then Goten would have to use Ultra Instinct to completely destroy Broly. After all, his ultimate goal was to acquire Broly's super bloodline. As for what methods he used to win the battle to get the bloodline, it didn't matter to him. What mattered most was survival. His goal was to become stronger and surpass those who were truly strong. Just as Goten was deep in thought, a massive green energy ball condensed from Broly's chest and blasted directly at him. Goten's body flashed again, and he dodged it easily. Broly's strength was indeed formidable, and the power of the energy ball was also impressive. But Broly, who was in a rampage state, had no battle finesse at all, and his attacks were very straightforward. Therefore, with proper calculations, it was easily avoidable, making it difficult to hit. Especially Goten, whose strength had reached the middle stage of Super Saiyan 2's second stage, was not slow at all. So, meanwhile, on King Kai's planet, Goku and the others looked very nervous. All of them frowned, clenched their fists, and watched the battle with the help of King Kai. That Broly's temper is so irritable and violent. Piccolo quickly gave an accurate judgment, and it seems that with the passage of time, his Kimi is constantly expanding. This guy is completely different from you guys. After Goku and Vegeta became Super Saiyan, their stamina and energy would be consumed quickly, because Super Saiyan itself was a transformation that consumed a lot of physical energy unless fully mastered. But the Saiyan named Broly seemed to be completely different from them. This guy's energy was constantly expanding, and the speed was very fast. If this continued, Goten was likely to be killed by Broly. Indeed! I feel it too! Goku also nodded solemnly. It's really unexpected that such a monstrous Saiyan still exists in the world. Right now, he really wanted to join the fight to help Goten fight Broly. But now he was a dead person, and the dead couldn't intervene in the affairs of the living realm at all. So at this moment, he could only be anxious. Come on, Goten cheered for Goten. You must win! You are the last warrior on Earth. Goten was the last Saiyan warrior on Earth. If even he died, it would be disastrous if there were other crises on Earth in the future. You guys are too worried, King Kai spoke seriously from the side, seeing everyone with serious faces. Although, judging from the current situation, there is indeed a big gap between Goten's strength and that of Broly. But don't forget, 2 months ago, Cell's strength was also higher than Goten's. Goten still killed him in seconds. And let me tell you that when Goten killed Cell, the aura of a god suddenly burst out from his body, which is a power that mortals have never mastered so far. It was not that he wanted to appease everyone's emotions. What he said was true. When Goten was fighting Cell 2 months ago, the moment Goten killed Cell in seconds, his body really burst out with the aura of God. It was just that ordinary people couldn't sense it at all. At that moment, Goten was destined to be extraordinary. The power of God? Goten? How is it possible? Goku asked, surprised. Stop joking. How can Saiyan master the power of a god? Not to mention that kid, Goten, who doesn't have any master. Kaio-sama, is what you said true. Everyone was extremely surprised. If King Kai hadn't lied to them, then there was a vast gap between them and Goten. These people had a very vague concept of the power of gods. To them, being able to kill the super perfect form Cell in an instant meant that the power of that god is very powerful. Goten had made up his mind to confront Broly head-on. After the battle with Cell, he had taken 4 more Senzu beams from Immortal Korin. Even if he were to be seriously injured, as long as he didn't die, he could recover immediately. He wanted to take advantage of the Saiyan Zenkai ability to gain powerful strength after recovering from a near-death state. Oh! His energy is constantly expanding. Goten noted as Broly released the energy ball. He felt the ki in Broly's body begin to expand rapidly again, causing even the muscles all over his body to tremble. He noticed that even though Broly was able to stay rational in his transformed state, he was becoming more irritable and bloodthirsty. Roar! Broly roared again as the energy in his body continued to expand. A powerful aura was released from his body instantly. A huge, vibrant green energy barrier was directly formed around his body, and then countless energy balls were released from the green barrier. Rumble, boom, boom, boom. Wherever the energy ball went, it caused complete destruction. At this time, the entire planet had long been crumbling. It seemed that every passing second there was a possibility of complete destruction. Goten definitely avoided all energy balls. Ha! In the next second, with an extremely fast dodge, he appeared in front of Broly. "The battle starts now, Broly," Goten declared with an extremely serious face. Until now, he had just been dodging Broly's attack blindly, so it wasn't a fight at all. The real battle was about to begin. Battle? La ha ha ha! Broly laughed maniacally. "Trash. You think you would be able to fight with me just because you want to. In my eyes, you're nothing more than an insignificant insect." Broly grinned suddenly, his blank white eyes full of disdain. In his eyes, Goten was just a poor little bug, a piece of trash that he didn't need to pay attention at all, one that could be crushed to death at will. But since this kid was Kakarot's son, he must not be allowed to die so easily. He wanted to vent all the anger against Kakarot he had harbored for decades on his son. "Yeah?" Goten shot back. "Funny, because from where I'm standing, you're nothing but a mindless brute, a pitiful excuse for a warrior." Goten also raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth and said to Broly, although when watching the movie version, he knew that Broly was rational after being transformed into legendary Super Saiyan. But he was a little surprised that this guy was able to say these words. After all, he didn't think that he would communicate much after the transformation. He. Broly chuckled darkly at Son Goten's words. Then he continued, "You and your father Kakarot, both weaklings, both repulsive. As a reward, I'll let you taste the terror that only a true Saiyan can bring." After Broly's crazy voice fell, he flashed out, and his massive frame resembling a juggernaut. He left a trail of destruction on the ground that passed by. His body also appeared in front of Goten like a ghost. Although this guy was big, it didn't affect his speed at all. It was astonishingly fast. He arrived almost in the blink of an eye. After appearing in front of Goten, Broly threw an uppercut. Goten clasped his hands quickly, blocking Broly's attack. The moment his body was lifted in the air, his right knee hit Broly's chin heavily. A blow with full strength only made Broly's head slightly tilted back. Is this guy's body so strong? Goten wondered. His body stopped in midair, his face full of disbelief. I hit with all my strength, but it just made him tilt his head back. Although he knew that as a legendary Super Saiyan, Broly must be strong, but he didn't expect it to be so outrageous. With all his strength, he couldn't beat him back, although he had long thought that this guy might be ridiculously strong. But this kind of resilience was a bit too ridiculous. Broly pursed his lips at this point. Then he raised his head and glanced at Goten. His eyes were full of disdain. Hey, is this your strength? Sure enough, it's as weak as I imagined. That kind of eyes and lip-licking movements were like a demon rushing out of hell. Just standing there could make many people shudder. This was the feeling of oppression, and only Broly in front of him could give this feeling of oppression. The DBS version of Broly simply didn't have that demonic feel. Goten didn't say much, but started to explode again, and the blue lightning around his body crackled and flickered like a small snake. The golden aura around the body was also more turbulent. After raising his energy, Goten flashed out again. A punch hit Broly's chest directly and heavily. Boom! A muffled crash sounded. But Broly remained motionless. Still with a malicious grin on the corner of his mouth, he looked down at Goten like a god of war returning from hell. Yes, this all trash. Broly's disdainful laughter sounded again. In the next second, Broly made a lightning quick move and grabbed Goten. Then he slammed him to the ground and dragged him all the way. The ground was instantly plowed into a trench several tens of feet long. The black martial arts uniform on Goten's body also became tattered in an instant. Then Broly threw Goten's body into the air and raised his hand to shoot a precise palm cannon. Boom! A cloud of black smoke suddenly exploded in the sky. And Goten's body was also blown out of the black smoke. There was still a long tail of black smoke trailing behind. Then his body was heavily embedded in the mountain peak hundreds of meters away. There were wounds of varying degrees on his body, and blood was overflowing from the corner of his mouth. After standing up again, Goten's eyes were still extremely firm, and there was a little bit of excitement. The legendary Super Saiyan bloodline was really too strong. If he could acquire it, he could definitely use Ultra Instinct Sign for a long time without having to worry about physical requirements. Rip! He tore off the tattered martial arts uniform on his body. Looks like I have to use the Ultra Instinct. If I keep fighting with this guy, I'm afraid that my body will not be able to handle the Ultra Instinct state later on. Goten quickly made up his mind. Although the Broly in front of him was not as terrifying as the DBS Broly, the growth of his Kia was rising in a straight line, which was ridiculously fast. If he continued to entangle like this, then the situation could quickly spiral out of control. Broly, I can see that your strength is indeed formidable, Goten admitted, his tone serious. The power of your mutated bloodline is stronger than I had imagined. If I were to rely solely on the power of Super Saiyan, I would indeed be no match for you. The gap between us is vast. However, I am determined to defeat you as swiftly as possible. Goten had made up his mind to use Ultra Instinct. His current Super Saiyan 2 form was simply not enough to defeat Broly. Even if he were to break through to Super Saiyan 3 at a critical moment, he might not necessarily be able to defeat Broly. Moreover, Broly's strength would only continue to grow as the battle progressed. To prevent any accidents, this battle had to end. If one were to consider Broly from the Dragon Ball Super movie, it might be possible to befriend him. However, this Broly, once he went berserk, was completely uncontrollable. As he himself had stated, the Broly standing before Goten was indeed a true demon. How could a true demon befriend humans? The only option was to completely eliminate Broly to prevent future troubles. Haha, trash. Broly scoffed at Goten's words. Just because you want to defeat me, you think you can do it? He had already fully gauged Goten's power. Even if Goten were to increase his strength tenfold, it would be absolutely impossible for him to defeat Broly. This was nothing more than a fool's dream. He could feel the aura in his body beginning to surge wildly again. Goten did not continue speaking. Instead, he directly took out a Senzu Bean and consumed it, swiftly recovering his physical strength. The injuries on his body healed completely in an instant. Then, he closed his eyes slightly and exited the transformation form of Super Saiyan. Oh! He let out a long breath. Once again, silver lines radiated around his entire body, and his aura became completely undetectable. Meanwhile, on King Kai's planet, Goku and Vegeta were once again taken aback. Goten's aura had completely disappeared. Even through King Kai's help, they could not sense Goten's at all. Goten's aura is gone again. Goku exclaimed, "It looks like he's going to use the form that defeated Cell earlier." Because they didn't know what it was, they could only refer to it as the form. In their understanding, it might be a form similar to Super Saiyan, but it seemed to be much stronger than Super Saiyan. This divine aura, King Kai's chubby body trembled. This time, the divine aura released by Goten is even stronger. The powerful divine aura emanating from Goten's body made him feel very oppressed. This was definitely a power that could only be mastered by a powerful god. As a mere North Kai, he naturally felt a sense of oppression. The Broly that Goten is facing now seems to be much stronger than the Cell from back then. Gohan voiced his concern. After all, Goten was the last Saiyan warrior on Earth. If something were to happen to him, the future of the Earth could be in jeopardy. You don't have to worry, King Kai reassured them. Although that Broly is indeed a monstrous existence, even if it's a few of you, you may not be able to defeat him. But Goten would be absolutely fine. Seeing everyone's worried expressions, King Kai spoke confidently. Only he could feel the immense divine aura in Goten's body, so he knew very well how powerful Goten was now. It seems that Goten has mastered a super ability, Goku said, a smile spreading across his face. Hee hee hee! Speaking of it, I have the urge to fight Goten. Although they had stayed together after death, Vegeta had never been his opponent, and Gohan couldn't stimulate the powerful fighting talent in his body without immense pressure. So these 8 years of training had made his strength completely surpass the others. Although they often trained together, he had absolutely no urge to fight with them. At this time, Goten and Broly made Goku quite excited. Unfortunately, he was now a dead man. There was no way to spar against Goten and Broly. On the other side, the silver lines around Goten's body became denser and denser. Broly looked at Goten suspiciously. He could feel that Goten's aura had completely disappeared in an instant. He had also exited the Super Saiyan transformation, and Broly didn't know what this kid was planning. But he didn't care at all, because no matter what Goten was doing, he would eventually die at his hands. Broly sneered, his teeth gritted in a bloodthirsty smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Without warning, he lunged towards Goten, his body a blur of motion. Swish. With a swift punch, the sheer force seemed to warp the space around them in an instant. Goten, however, remained still, his eyes closed. Yet, it was as if his entire body had sprouted eyes, for the moment Broly's fist came hurtling towards him. Goten moved slightly and effortlessly dodged Broly's attack. Jiggle! Broly chuckled, seemingly amused that his attack had been so easily evaded. Undeterred, he gritted his teeth and launched a barrage of punches towards Goten. Swish! Swish! The sound of air being sliced echoed around them, creating ripples in the air. Yet, despite the hundreds of attacks, not a single one managed to land on Goten. Then in the next second, Goten's eyes snapped open. A flash of silver light sparked in his pupils, and immediately after, the silver aura around his body shimmered. His hair moved as if caught in an unseen breeze. His expression remained calm, and his mood did not waver in the slightest. Huh? Broly froze, clearly taken aback as he saw Goten's entire body suddenly radiating with silver aura. But Goten didn't intend to give him time to be surprised. The instant the silver light danced in his pupils, Goten's body vanished as if he were a specter. His speed was astonishing, leaving a trail of afterimages suspended in midair. Before Broly could even register his surprise, Goten's figure had already materialized before him. A swift, straight punch landed squarely on Broly's abdomen. Boom! A low, resonating crash echoed as a gush of blood spurted from Broly's mouth. His towering body, standing over 3 meters tall, was sent flying several hundred feet backward by the force of the punch. Broly clutched his stomach, grimacing in pain. He felt as if his insides were being twisted together, causing a gut-wrenching agony. Despite his formidable strength and robust physique, the power behind Goten's punch, amplified by the Ultra Instinct, was terrifyingly potent. Pain continued to fuel Broly's rage, causing him to howl like a wounded beast. The vibrant green aura around his body flared up even more intensely. Whoosh! Without a moment's hesitation, Goten's body flickered, appearing once again like a phantom. A beautifully executed roundhouse kick landed hard on Broly's neck. Boom! Rumble! Broly's massive body crashed into the ground, creating a massive sinkhole upon impact. At this moment, Goten showed no mercy. He was aware that in his current state, using Ultra Instinct, he could only maintain it for less than half a minute. If Broly wasn't completely subdued within that time frame, Goten's body would be in serious danger. He would be like a fish on a chopping board, at the mercy of Broly's wrath. After sending Broly crashing into the ground, Goten leaped into the air. With a swift motion, he began gathering energy in one hand. A silver energy bullet composed of pure divine ki was condensed in an instant. No matter how resilient Broly's body was, it stood no chance against such a force. Boom! Rumble! The energy bullet hit its mark right where Broly was. The deafening explosion caused the entire planet to tremble. The ground was pierced by the remnant energy waves, causing the scarlet magma to surge wildly. And there, amidst the chaos, Broly's body reappeared in Goten's line of sight. His massive form was riddled with wounds, blood-stained the corners of his mouth and eyes, but his fury was even more palpable. He resembled an ancient beast awakened from slumber, baring its teeth in rage. His aura was more terrifying than ever. Clearly, the pain had only served to make Broly stronger and more ferocious. Gradually losing control to his primal instincts, he was slowly losing his self-awareness. He actually survived that. This guy's tenacity is unbelievable.
Goten was taken aback as he observed Broly, who had only sustained a few injuries.
Roar! A frenzied roar erupted from Broly's throat. The green energy surrounding his body grew increasingly terrifying. Energy balls were continuously released from his body, wreaking havoc wherever they went. The ground was obliterated and the scarlet magma churned and surged relentlessly. The entire planet was on the brink of destruction, and it was estimated that in less than a minute, this planet would be completely annihilated. Broly's energy was still ravaging the planet. A serious expression gradually appeared on Goten's face. He had been battling Broly for so long, yet the system's notification sound had not rung out. This meant that he hadn't acquired Broly's mutated bloodline yet. He had risked his lives to come to this planet just to acquire Broly's bloodline. After all this effort, if he couldn't acquire Broly's mutated bloodline, it would be a huge disappointment. More importantly, Broly had completely lost his mind and had begun to destroy everything in sight. This planet was estimated to be completely destroyed in a minute. At that time, Goten would be in grave danger. After all, he couldn't sustain the Ultra Instinct mode for a long time, and with the power of Super Saiyan alone, it was utterly impossible to survive in the universe. System, accept the fusion of Cell's abilities. At this moment, Goten suddenly remembered that when he had defeated Cell before, he had acquired his abilities. Initially, he had not chosen to accept the reward, because he didn't find Cell's abilities particularly useful. Unexpectedly, at this critical juncture, Cell's abilities would prove to be handy. This was because Cell's genetic composition contained the genes of Frieza and his father, King Cold, and the Frost Demons had the ability to survive in a vacuum. Very well, host. The voice of the system rang out promptly. Accompanied by a tingling sensation all over his body, the system indicated that the fusion was successful. A wealth of new knowledge flooded his mind in an instant. Vegeta's Final Flash, Frieza's Death Beam, and Supernova, Piccolo's Mystic Flash Cannon, Tien Shinhan's Tri-Beam, and other abilities, but these were of little use to Goten at the moment. The only thing that would come in handy right now was Frieza and King Cold's ability to survive in the vacuum of space. Aha! Broly's aura was growing stronger and stronger, and the planet was crumbling like a boat in a stormy sea. Goten knew very well that it was time to deliver the final blow to Broly. Even if he couldn't acquire the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline this time, he couldn't afford to die here. It's over, Broly. With this thought in mind, Goten stared at Broly with an extremely serious gaze. And the next second, his body instantly appeared in front of Broly. The silver divine energy, condensed in his palm, was aimed at Broly's chest. Without any hesitation, and without giving Broly any chance to resist, the energy ball blasted out from his palm instantly. Ah! Accompanied by a piercing scream, Broly's body disintegrated and dissipated bit by bit under the divine energy. The terrifying energy impact directly caused the entire planet to explode in an instant. At the same time, the familiar voice sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline, 5 billion fighting power. Boom! The moment the system voice sounded, the planet also exploded, and a beautiful firework bloomed in the vast expanse of the universe. Boom. The brilliant fireworks gradually began to dissipate, eventually reducing to cosmic dust. Broly's body was nowhere to be found at this moment. Goten, standing amidst the vast expanse of the universe, seemed as insignificant as a speck of dust. The planet's explosion had inflicted severe injuries on him, causing him to bleed profusely. Although he possessed the power to obliterate a planet in an instant, surviving the energy released by a planet's explosion was an entirely different matter. If he hadn't managed to condense an energy barrier in time, the shockwave from the planet's explosion could have seriously injured or even killed him. This was no exaggeration. Immediately deactivated his Ultra Instinct state, he instantly felt extremely weak, as if all the strength had been drained from his body. After all, using Ultra Instinct with his current body resilience consumed a significant amount of physical energy and also inflicted considerable strain on the body. Moreover, the shockwave from the explosion had also caused numerous injuries. Feeling the weakness in his body, Goten quickly took out another Senzu bean and popped it into his mouth. After chewing a few times, the injuries on his body miraculously healed. He could clearly feel that the energy in his body seemed much stronger than before. It was as if the power was ready to burst forth. Finally got rid of that guy. However, this approach was really a bit too risky. Even now, having recovered his full strength, he still had lingering fears that guy, Broly, was stronger than he had imagined. In his Ultra Instinct state, Broly had managed to endure 2 full-strength attacks before he could finally defeat him. Fortunately, Broly wasn't given more time to grow. Otherwise, it was uncertain whether he would have been able to survive in the end. However, this risky adventure finally yielded a satisfactory result. He got what he had been most looking forward to, the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline. This was what he had come for. The basic combat power of 5 billion had also significantly improved his strength. After fusing with the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline, it was hard for him to imagine how strong he would become, but one thing was certain, it would definitely not be the same as it is now. The system has detected a non-fused bloodline, legendary Super Saiyan bloodline. Does the host wish to proceed with the fusion? At this moment, the voice of the system sounded again. In the bloodline column of his personal template, the words of the legendary Super Saiyan, not fused, also appeared. No, not yet. Should have mentally dismissed the suggestion. Initiating the bloodline fusion here was too risky. With the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline involved, the outcome was unpredictable. It was clear that this wasn't the suitable environment for such a fusion. For fusion to occur, a secure location was essential for peace of mind. Very well, host. The system also responded immediately. Then there was no movement from the system. At this time, Goten looked at the vast, boundless universe. A sense of loneliness washed over him. Although he had trained alone in the hyperbolic time chamber for a year, he knew he was on Earth at the time. As long as he stepped out of the gate of the time chamber, he could return to Earth. But now, he didn't know how to get back to Earth. Getting back to Earth wouldn't be easy without a spaceship. Therefore, his current plan was to find a planet with signs of biological activity first, and then find a way to return to Earth. After making up his mind, Goten disappeared in a flash. Meanwhile, on King Kai planet, Goku and Gohan were all smiles because Goten had survived, and Broly had been defeated. Amazing, Goten! Goku clenched his fists excitedly. Not only had Goten taken care of Broly, but he had also survived the planet's explosion. Goten, this kid is really outrageously strong. Broly's energy at that last moment was really too strong. And even if you become Super Saiyan 3rd, you still can't beat Broly. Gohan was also full of excitement and anticipation. They could clearly feel Broly's aura at that time. It was powerful beyond description. Although Gohan had reached the form of Super Saiyan 2, he knew very well that Broly at that time could definitely kill him instantly. It was estimated that even Goku's Super Saiyan 3 form was no match for Broly. You're right, Gohan. Even if I become Super Saiyan 3, it's absolutely impossible to defeat Broly. That guy is really too strong, but that kid, Goten, is the best. The current him is estimated to have reached a level that we cannot comprehend. Goku nodded in agreement, then spoke to everyone with a calm face. Goten's current level was at a height that was difficult for them to understand. Before, they had felt that the form of Super Saiyan 3 was really strong. But after experiencing the battle between Goten and Broly, they gradually realized that Super Saiyan 3 was not worth mentioning in front of the two of them. It looked like they still had a long way to go. Damn it. Damned Kakarot, both father and son have surpassed me. Unforgivable. Vegeta's face was livid with anger. At the beginning, Goku was the only one who had surpassed him. But 8 years ago, Goku's son, Gohan, had surpassed him. Now, even his youngest son had become so strong. He, the Eternal Second, had fallen directly to the 4th position. It was so irritating. Once the commotion settled down, Piccolo finally interjected, "Didn't you guys realize that kid, Goten, can survive in the vacuum of space? If I remember correctly, Saiyans don't seem to have this ability. Even if they became a Super Saiyan, they couldn't survive in the vacuum of space. But Goten seemed to be totally fine, and he was moving forward at a very fast speed. Yes, how is this possible? Saiyans really can't survive in the space." Goku also looked puzzled. Vegeta on the side obviously didn't understand what was going on. Saiyans did not have this special ability, but Frieza and his kind could. Maybe it has something to do with the divine key in Goten's body. Looking at the puzzled crowd, King Kai spoke. It was normal for a warrior with the power of a god to survive in the universe. Goku and the others nodded in agreement, unable to think of any other explanation. I hope that kid will be blessed with great fortune and survive into space, King Kai muttered to himself in a low voice. Although Goten's character was different from Goku and Gohan, being more decisive than them, he knew Goten was also a good boy and a formidable warrior. By defeating Broly, Goten had saved countless planets and creatures in the southern quadrant of the galaxy. Everyone, please rest assured, Piccolo spoke up. With Goten's strength, he can presumably survive into space. Goku and the others didn't continue to observe Goten either. Goten's current strength had far surpassed them, leaving them far behind. Hey, let's continue training, Goku said to Vegeta and Gohan with an excited smile. At first, I thought that Super Saiyan 3rd was already very strong, but seeing Broly and Goten's battle today made me realize that our strength is still very weak. He looked forward to meeting Goten one day and experiencing Goten's power for himself. Several people nodded seriously. In the past 8 years, although their strength had improved significantly, it paled in comparison when compared with Goten's strength. Goten's power had greatly stimulated everyone's desire to train harder. In this way, time passed day by day. A week passed in the blink of an eye. King Kai and Goku would also check on Goten's current situation every other day. At this time, Goten had been wandering in the empty space for a whole week. Although space was vast and boundless, filled with countless planets, the distance between each planet was at least hundreds of thousands of kilometers. No matter how fast Goten was, it was not an easy task to go from one planet to another. Moreover, randomly fumbling without a sense of direction greatly escalated the difficulty of searching. The lack of food and rest was also a factor that added to the escalated difficulty in the space. Fortunately, Goten still had 2 Senzu beans on his body. These miraculous beans not only could make people recover from injuries, but also could make people recover their physical strength instantly. At this time, in the vast and boundless space, 2 figures suddenly appeared, one tall and one short. Both of them had silver white hair. The short one was only about 1.4 meters tall, with a silver white mohawk, light purple skin, and a pair of long ears. The taller one was a big man with a red face and long silver white hair hanging down his back. Both were wearing strange suits. The most striking thing was that the 2 big men were wearing a pair of earrings. Kaioshin-sama, look quickly. There seems to be someone over there, the red-faced man suddenly said to the little man beside him. The words were obviously full of surprise. After all, there were not many races that could survive in the vacuum of space. This is the most desolate and remote location in the southern quadrant of the galaxy. How could someone be here? Let's go and see. Kibito. The little man immediately spoke seriously. Perhaps he has something to do with the explosion of a planet a few days ago. The 2 guys that suddenly appeared in the empty space were Supreme Kai Shin of the 7th universe and his attendant Kibito. They left the sacred realm of Kai to come to the southern galaxy this time, mainly for inspection of destruction of dozens of planets. On the way, they decided to investigate the sudden explosion of a planet they sensed some time ago. In the past few years, dozens of planets in the southern galaxy have been inexplicably destroyed, one after another. It's just that, in recent years, he had been paying attention to Majin Buu's affairs, so he didn't have enough time to focus on the matters happening in the southern galaxy. Just a few years ago, he got the definite news that the evil magician Babidi had a son named Babidi, who possessed the ability to lift the seal of Majin Buu. Majin Buu was the fear in his heart. As long as that guy broke the seal, it was very likely that the entire universe would be destroyed. So other things were not so important in front of this matter that was related to the survival of the universe. Therefore, in the past few years, he had been constantly investigating Babidi's whereabouts, but Babidi was not found. Now he was like a frightened bird every day. Sometimes he even got nightmares, haunted by the image of the other 4 Supreme Kai being killed and absorbed by Majin Buu thousands of years ago. Okay. Kaioshin-sama. Kibito immediately nodded respectfully. Then the 2 of them used the instant movement technique and appeared directly in front of a figure. It's actually a child? Shin and Kibito exchanged surprised glances at the figure before them. How could a child be wandering alone in the space? Shin's astonishment was evident, and the kid who appeared in front of Shin and Kibito was naturally Goten, who had been wandering in the space for a whole week. Goten was also surprised after seeing Supreme Kai Shin and Kibito at this time. It's Kaioshin. Shin and Kibito. Finally, I am saved. Of course, he was surprised and excited at the same time. It felt like encountering his very own rescuers. Because meeting these two guys meant he didn't have to hang around in the space anymore. Finally, he could leave this place of deathly silence. Hey kid, who are you? Why did you appear in the empty space? Kibito took a step forward, looked at Goten, and immediately asked with a straight face, "Quickly, take me out of this place." Goten looked at the two and didn't answer Kibito's question, but spoke immediately. "I don't want to stay in this damn place for a minute, not for a second." After wandering around in the space for a whole week, his whole body was not feeling good. For 7 days, he didn't even have a bite of hot food. This was simply a huge torture for a Saiyan. Now his only thought was to get out of this ghost place and go eat something. Shun raised his eyebrows slightly. The child floating before him didn't seem to recognize them. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to address the highest gods in the universe in such a tone. "Hey boy, do you realize who is standing in front of you? You actually dare to address us in such manner." Kibito's eyes widened instantly. This little guy dared to be so audacious in front of Supreme Kai. With a towering height of 2 meters and a stern expression, he tried to appear intimidating. "Let it be, Kibito. He's just a child and doesn't know our identities," Supreme Kai reminded Kibito. "As to him, those who don't know are not guilty." "How could I not know you?" Goten glanced at the two of them, then spoke quickly. "Aren't you the Kaioshin Shin, and isn't he your attendant, Kibito?" Okay, please take me out of this place quickly. I really don't want to stay here anymore." Although these two figures thought of themselves as very imposing, and when they appeared in Dragon Ball Z, they were full of style, but their grandeur lasted for only 3 scenes. A Demon King, Dabura, almost scared the two of them to their wits' end. After Majin Buu broke the seal, he almost frightened Shin to death. To be honest, as the top god in the universe, it was indeed quite embarrassing. What? Hearing Goten reveal their identities so calmly, Shin and Kibito were shocked. A mere child wandering around in the space would know the existence of Supreme Kai, and it seemed that he knew both of them completely, which really made them feel incredible. "You? How do you know?" Shin looked at Goten in disbelief. He knew that among mortals, not many know of the existence of Supreme Kai, but this child was so confident it was unusual. "There's so much more I know," Goten continued to speak impatiently. "Can you take me out of here quickly? You can ask whatever you want after we leave from here, and let me eat something." Shin immediately tried reading Goten's thoughts with mind reading. But, unfortunately, he couldn't use mind reading to know what was going on in Goten's mind. He was unable to read any of his information. This only added to his disbelief, as mind reading was a Supreme Kai's special ability. It was really weird that he couldn't read any information about the kid in front of him. This kind of thing had never happened before. "Boy, since you know that standing in front of you is Kaioshin-sama, the highest god in the universe, you should pay attention to your tone of voice. When speaking to Kaioshin-sama, maintain due respect." Just when Shin was very surprised why he couldn't read Goten's mind, Kibito on the side said to Goten with a serious face, since the kid already knew that a Supreme Kai was in front of him, it was really unreasonable to use such a tone. Seeing Kibito's serious expression, Goten's face also changed slightly. Then his body suddenly flashed and appeared behind the two of them, like a ghost. With both hands on their shoulders, a faint tone sounded from behind. "Hey, I've been wandering in this boring space for a whole week, and I'm a little irritated now. Please don't force me to beat you." Hearing the voice behind them, the two were shocked. Kibito's forehead also broke out in cold sweat instantly. At that moment, just now, he didn't see clearly how the boy appeared behind them. The speed was too fast. The two looked at each other, and they could see the shock in each other's eyes. Kaioshin-sama. This guy is definitely not an ordinary kid. Kibito spoke to Shin through a special sound transmission method. Yes, his strength is very strong, perhaps surpassing ours. Shin also replied to Kibito immediately. "Then what do we do now?" "Take him to the God Realm. In this way, we may be able to find out his details." The two communicated through sound transmission. Eventually, Shin decided to bring Goten to the sacred realm of Kai first. He felt that Goten seemed harmless, and there was no evil energy in his body. A mortal child actually surpassed them in strength, which really made him unbelievable. So he was very curious about who this kid was. If he could bring him to the sacred realm of Kai, maybe this problem would be clarified. Kibito nodded. Immediately after that, he cast the Kai technique. Whoosh! The bodies of the three people faded for a moment, and then disappeared from the place in an instant. When they appeared again, they had already arrived at an emerald green planet. At first glance, it was full of verdant vegetation. This planet was very similar to the Earth. Sacred realm of Kai. Goten looked around and immediately recognized this place as the God Realm, because the God Realm had appeared several times in both Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super. Okay, now can you tell me who you are? Why were you wandering into space? Also, where are you from? After returning to the sacred realm of Kai, Shin turned his head, looked at Goten, and asked, "Certainly. By the way, I'm very hungry now. Can you ask him to get me something to eat first?" Goten pointed to Kibito and said. Kibito's face darkened immediately. He was a Supreme Kai's attendant. Now he was actually asked to help a mortal prepare food, which was really outrageous. What's even more outrageous was that Shin nodded and then said to Kibito, "Kibito, go get some food." Kibito, although he was very upset, he must follow Supreme Kai's orders. While Kibito was preparing the food, Goten also introduced himself, although he had the strength far beyond Shin and Kibito. But this guy in front of him was also the most foremost authority in this universe. While Shin was a little timid, but at least he had a good heart. "My name is Goten. I am from Earth in the Northern Galaxy. As for why I am wandering in the universe," Goten didn't hide anything and told the story of killing Broly himself. It was no secret at all, so there was nothing to hide. "Wait, what? You were from Earth?" Shin was stunned. "The Earth from the Northern Quadrant of Galaxy? Isn't that the planet where I hid the sealed Majin Buu magic egg? And that legendary Super Saiyan Broly was likely to be the culprit who caused the destruction of countless planets in the Southern Quadrant of Galaxy. Goten-san, in that case, we owe you a great debt of gratitude for dealing with Broly," Shin began, his tone filled with sincerity. "You've saved countless lives in the Southern Galaxy from extinction. On behalf of the survivors of the Southern Galaxy, I thank you." Shin adjusted his demeanor and expressed his gratitude, adopting a different tone when addressing Goten. Additionally, he began referring to him as Goten-san. In a world where strength was respected, power could represent everything. Although Supreme Kai was considered the highest deity in the universe, Shin's strength was rather average. Therefore, it was only natural to show a certain amount of respect for a powerful individual who had aided the universe. "You should indeed thank me. After all, what I did is originally what the Supreme Kai is supposed to do." Goten replied directly, not mincing his words. Given the strength of Shin and Kibito, even if the two of them fused together, they wouldn't be a match for Broly. At this time, Kibito served a few dishes. They were strange in shape, looking no different from the beasts in Mount Paozu. Goten finished quickly. Although the taste was poor, after starving for a full week in the space, he wasn't that picky anymore. "The taste is average, but at least it was filling," Goten said after wiping out all the dishes on the table. Compared to his mother's cooking, it was a world of difference. These words made Kibito's face darken even more. "Goten-san, there is something I'm unsure whether to mention or not," Shin said awkwardly after Goten finished eating. In fact, Majin Buu had always been his problem. It could even be said that, in the depths of his heart, it was like a nightmare. If Majin Buu broke, though, the seal based on his and Kibito's strength, they would definitely be killed in an instant. And even Babidi, the magician, had some powerful evil fighters under him. He and Kibito were also not sure of victory. The Goten in front of him obviously had more power than them. If they could get his help, maybe they could kill Babidi and let Majin Buu continue to be sealed. "Feel free to speak up without reservation." Goten wiped his mouth and said, "It's like this. Tens of thousands of years ago, a demon with terrifying strength was born in the universe. His appearance instantly turned hundreds of thousands of planets into desolate planets devoid of any life." Shin began his introduction. Later, 5 Kaioshin went to destroy Majin Buu together, but it was a pity that Majin Buu was too strong, and in the end, the other 4 Kaioshin were killed by Majin Buu. He recounted the whole story about the Majin Buu situation. These words were the same as what they said to Goku and Vegeta back then. He ultimately wanted to relay that the evil magician Babidi had a son named Babidi, who also had magic that could unseal Majin Buu. But he had a group of controlled evil warriors by his side, so Shin hoped to get Goten's help. Only in this way could Babidi be destroyed without any risk of failure, and that Majin Buu could continue to be sealed. Understood. Goten nodded and said, "You mean you want me to help you kill the magician Babidi and his puppets?" In fact, with his current strength, he could easily get rid of the Demon King Deborah. As for continuing to seal away Majin Buu, he wasn't keen on that idea. He was still holding out hope for Buu's return, because that super regeneration ability of Buu was just too good to let slip away. "Yes, that's what I mean." Shin nodded quickly. Then he stared at Goten intently, waiting for his answer. If they could get the help of Goten, then it was absolutely no problem to continue to seal Majin Buu. I can promise you. I can even help you get rid of Majin Buu completely. Goten nodded, looked at the two, and said, "But I have one condition." "What condition?" Shin asked quickly. "It's very simple for you. You just need to spar with me once," Goten said, with a faint smile. "Regardless of victory or defeat, I will agree to your previous request." Although the strength of the two guys in front of him was indeed average, it could even be said to be weak. But Kabito had two very good abilities, the divine skills, Kai and healing. If he could pick up these two abilities in battle, it would be very good. If he mastered Kai, there would be no such thing as being trapped in the space in the future. "That's all?" Shin looked skeptical. "Of course." Goten nodded firmly. "Then we better not delay it any further. Let's get started." Goten said impatiently, because he still had the legendary Saiyan bloodline which he hadn't fused yet. The sacred realm of Kai was a very safe place where he could be rest assured and start the bloodline fusion process. "Okay, then prepare yourself." Shin also nodded quickly. Then he took a fighting stance. This kid's got some nerve. He actually thinks he can take on the two of us. He doesn't even take us gods too seriously. Kibito scoffed incredulously. Just a mere mortal, Kibito was unconvinced. He didn't think that Goten could defeat the coordinated assault of himself and Shin. "Bring it on." Goten nodded. His expression remained stoic as he swiftly shifted into the Super Saiyan form. Having fully mastered both Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 transformations, there was no need for dramatic roaring or constipated faces anymore. The two rushed over swiftly. Kibito poured all his energy into his attacks. Both his speed and strength were pushed to their limits. Despite launching hundreds of punches, not a single one landed on Goten. He couldn't even touch his clothes. The same went for Shin. Such terrifying strength. This kid didn't move at all, and he was able to avoid all attacks from me and Kaioshin-sama. While shocked, Kibito also secretly made up his mind. "In this case, I'll use Kai. I'd like to see if you're faster than my instantaneous movements." Immediately afterwards, Kai was used, for a moment. Countless afterimages of Kabuto appeared around Goten's body. Swish, swish. Punches rained down from all sides, yet not a single one found its mark on Goten. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up a divine skill Kai. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the divine skill healing. Just after the boring battle lasted for 4 or 5 minutes, Goten's face suddenly showed joy. It seemed that this system was really awesome. The probability of picking up good loot was very high. "Goten-san, your strength is truly terrifying. Perhaps you could even defeat Majin Buu," Shin exclaimed, his voice filled with awe and excitement. "With your help, we might finally be able to eliminate Babidi and prevent Majin Buu from awakening." Although he couldn't even touch Goten's body from beginning to end, Shin was thrilled. He had finally witnessed Goten's power, and his intuition told him that Goten hadn't even exerted his full strength yet. It was incredible that a human could possess such formidable power. He had been Supreme Kai for a long time, and hadn't realized that such powerful fighters existed in the universe. "All right, that's enough for now," Goten declared. After hearing the system notification in his head, his goal had been achieved. The battle had become monotonous, and he lost interest. Clenching his fist slightly, a terrifying puff of aura erupted from his body instantly. The powerful airwave spread in all directions with Goten at the center, sending Shin and Kibito flying. They retreated a distance of tens of feet before they came to a steady stop. They were even more shocked by Goten's power. Just the burst of aura had knocked them back such a long distance. More importantly, they knew that Goten wasn't using his full strength at all. Such power. It's truly incredible, Shin exclaimed, his excitement palpable. Hito, who had initially been skeptical, was now utterly convinced. Goten had previously come across as arrogant, but they now understood that his arrogance was justified. At such a young age, he had surpassed the strength of the Supreme Kai, who wouldn't be arrogant in his position. Besides, youth often came with the touch of frivolity. After effortlessly knocking the two off their feet, Goten had exited his Super Saiyan form. Goten-san, your strength is truly formidable, Supreme Kai hurried over and asked excitedly, when are we gonna Earth? With Goten's help, he was confident they could easily defeat the magician Babidi. In a few days, Goten replied, your place is relatively quiet. I want to continue training for a few days. It may be safer that way. In truth, he wanted to complete the fusion of the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline here. Okay. Shin nodded repeatedly. Indeed, to ensure we can handle any unexpected situations, it's necessary to improve our strength. The stronger Goten became, the higher their chances of successfully preventing the awakening of Majin Buu. By the way, I don't want to be disturbed during my next training session, Goten added, and things might get a little intense, so you better stay away from me. After finishing his sentence, Goten's body jumped and appeared on top of a mountain in an instant. He then sat cross-legged and began to communicate with the system in his mind. System fuse the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline, Goten commanded. Very well, host, the system responded. Please get ready, fusion will start in 10 seconds. The countdown began. The moment the countdown ended, a heart-piercing pain instantly spread throughout Goten's body. It felt as if an incomparably terrifying force was swimming through every inch of his skin. The normal Saiyan genes in his body began to be quickly replaced and changed. Goten clenched his fists tightly and frowned. Sweat broke out instantly. The pain was heart-piercing, but he knew that this pain was making him stronger. As time passed, Goten could feel his genes being changed. Little by little, his flesh and limbs were undergoing a process of being reshaped.
This heart-piercing pain lasted for about 20 minutes. Then it started to slow down gradually. The energy flowing in his body also weakened a little bit. However, the strength in his body had increased by an unknown number of times.
Ha! Goten suddenly opened his eyes, and a low growl began to echo throughout the god realm. Rustle. At the same time, vibrant green aura flames instantly rose around his body. Waves of air swept in all directions. Rumble. The entire god realm began to tremble violently. The surrounding mountains began to collapse rapidly, and it felt like the entire realm was facing doomsday. Shin and Kibito quickly put their arms in front of them, but their bodies began to retreat uncontrollably. There were 2 clear marks on the ground. Amazing. What a terrifying power, Shin exclaimed. Is this Goten-san's real power? It's unbelievable, so strong. He had never dreamed that the mortal in the universe could increase his power to this level. With this kind of power, Goten had surpassed the original 4 Kaioshins. Maybe Goten's power was not weaker than Majin Buu's. Now, of course he was young thousands of years ago, so he didn't truly know how strong Majin Buu's true power was. Indeed. It's too scary, Kibito agreed. It's really unimaginable that such a powerful force is possessed by a mortal. With this kind of power, it was estimated that even if Majin Buu broke the seal, they could deal with him. Kyuma rumble! The violent shaking lasted for a minute, and then began to weaken slowly. The hurricane began to dissipate little by little. The ground gradually began to return to calm, and the aura around Goten was not as violent as before. Ding! Congratulations to the host, the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline fusion was successful. The system's voice rang in his mind. Did I make it? Goten wondered. Is this the feeling of possessing the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline? The power is so strong that it's almost overflowing. This feeling is so comfortable. Clenching his fist, the power in his body seemed to be gushing out, and Goten's excited body was trembling. One could imagine how terrifying this power would be after becoming a Super Saiyan. Sure enough, in this world, bloodline was the eternal truth. Goten could clearly feel that after his fusion with the bloodline of the legendary Super Saiyan, his power had not just increased exponentially. The strength of his body had undergone a complete transformation. It was no wonder that in the DBZ movie version, the Super Saiyan Broly could resist Goku's Kamehameha wave with his bare face and remain unscathed. At this moment, Goten's aura had completely calmed down. Shin and Kibito, unable to contain their excitement, flew directly towards Goten. Their eyes flashed with unparalleled excitement mixed with envy and admiration. The power Goten had just released might be a height they would never reach in their lifetime. Goten-san, the strength you just displayed, is that your true power? Kibito asked, his voice filled with admiration and envy. It's unbelievable. I never dreamed that a mortal could possess such a powerful force. Goten-san, you are incredibly strong. Shin chimed in, his fists clenched in excitement. The power you just displayed, I believe even Majin Buu, cannot be your opponent. Actually, the power I just displayed isn't my true strength. Goten shook his head, looking at the excited pair. And this power isn't enough to eliminate Majin Buu. Although the fusion with the bloodline of the legendary Super Saiyan had made his basic strength incredibly strong, it was still not enough to completely destroy Majin Buu. After all, Majin Buu's super regeneration ability was still very formidable. As long as he was not completely destroyed, he could recover again. And after the original Budu recovered, his power would not weaken in any way. This thing was indeed very difficult to deal with. What? Shin and Kibito were completely dumbfounded upon hearing Goten's words. You mean, the incredibly strong power just now isn't your real strength? The energy Goten had just released was simply unimaginable for them. They estimated that even if they trained for another 1,000,000 years, they might not be able to reach that level. But they hadn't expected that it wasn't Goten's real strength. What's more, Goten was just a kid. How strong would he become if given enough time to grow? The thought alone made them tremble. Goten nodded. He wanted to feel how strong that he would be after his fusion with the bloodline of the legendary Super Saiyan. And the God Realm was the most ideal place. If it was on Earth, if he went berserk or couldn't control his own energy, it might cause a devastating blow to the planet. But the God Realm was different. Even if the entire realm was destroyed, at least Shin and Kibito could use Kai to leave. At worst, they could rebuild it when the time came. Gulp. Then can you show us your full strength? Shin asked, swallowing hard. The strength Goten had just shown was enough to shock them. Now they wanted to see how strong Goten would be after he unleashed his full strength. I'm also curious, what kind of level can the strongest fighter in this universe achieve? Kibito also stared at Goten expectantly. In his heart, Goten had become the most powerful warrior in the universe. Okay, Goten agreed, a faint smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Since the two of you are so interested, let's take a look. But Shin suddenly felt that Goten's smile was a bit strange. It seemed like something bad was going to happen. By the way, I still can't fully control the power I'm about to unleash, so you'd better stay a little far away. Goten turned his head, an innocent smile on his face, and kindly reminded the two of them. Hearing this, the pupils of Shin and Kibito shrank suddenly, then they looked at Goten with wide eyes. Shin suddenly realized, so that was why I felt uneasy just now. After a moment of surprise and bewilderment, Kabuto hurriedly pulled Shin to move away and used Kai and appeared thousands of feet away. Then they hid behind a mountain peak, but it felt like it wasn't safe enough. Shin quickly moved his hands, and an energy barrier appeared around the two of them. This made them feel more at ease. Seeing that the two had retreated 1,000 feet away, Goten also began to prepare to transform. Then let me experience the legendary Super Saiyan form. After the voice fell, he clenched his fists violently. His eyes instantly became extremely firm. Ats! In the next second, a deep roar came from his throat. Hume rumble. The ground suddenly began to shake violently. The gravel on the ground floated directly in midair. The airwaves under his feet began to spread rapidly like a tornado. An overwhelming aura instantly filled the entire God realm, and then began to spread rapidly towards the surroundings. Rumble! The deafening sound of collapse sounded one after another, and the surrounding mountain peaks continued to collapse under the terrifying airwaves. At this time, Goten's aura continued to increase sharply, but that aura was very restless. Heavens! Oh my gosh! Is this kid a monster? Shin exclaimed. What kind of aura is this? The entire God realm is filled with it. He had never felt this kind of aura before. It was as unfathomable as an abyss. Kibito had already opened his mouth in a daze, completely shocked and speechless. He hadn't expected to see such a superpower in his lifetime. And in the shocked eyes of the two, Goten began to change. The black hair was suddenly bundled up high, and the vibrant green energy around the body became more and more surging, appearing like a jet. The black eyeballs suddenly disappeared and became hollow and pale. Swish! In the next second, the black hair turned directly into vibrant green in an instant. At this moment, the atmosphere had once again discovered an earth-shaking change. At this time, Goten's aura had obviously surpassed that of Broly. Roar! A beastly roar emanated from Goten's throat. At this time, it felt like he was a wild beast that was completely out of control. The energy was constantly expanding. The martial arts G on his upper body had been completely torn, and he was much burlier than when he had become Super Saiyan. The blue veins on his face were wriggling like little snakes. Impressively, at this time, Goten had transformed into the legendary Super Saiyan form. Goten extended his arms and gradually levitated. Rusting sound filled the air as circles of formidable airwaves continuously spread outwards. The ground collapsed in a circle, forming a semicircular crater that reached hundreds of feet deep. At this point, Goten seemed to have regained his composure, but his eyes were still vacant. The pupils completely vanished. Coupled with the vibrant green light radiating from his body, he bore a striking resemblance to Broly. At this time, Shin and Kibito, who were hiding thousands of feet away, were already drenched in cold sweat from fear. The power Goten had just displayed was truly terrifying. Even as gods, they felt a tremendous sense of oppression. They had never experienced this kind of pressure before. Not even from Majin Buu. Kaioshin-sama, Goten's pupils, disappeared. Has he lost control? Kibito asked, trembling with fear. If that's the case, we might be killed here. It would be too shameful for a supreme god of the universe to be killed in his own realm. More importantly, if a supreme Kai were to be killed, the world would plunge into chaos. Goten-san should be able to control this energy, Shen said, though uncertainty tinged his voice. Goten had warned them earlier that he couldn't guarantee whether he could control the energy after transforming. The disappearance of his pupils at this time made them very scared. While the two were talking, Goten's figure appeared in front of them like a ghost. What? Shin and Kibito were stunned for a moment. Kaioshin-sama, you don't have to be so afraid. I am not out of control, Goten reassured them, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. As he spoke, pupils slowly emerged from his vacant, pale eyes. However, the pupils were no longer black as before, nor were they light green like a Super Saiyan's. Instead, they had turned into golden pupils. It was clear that Goten hadn't lost his mind after fusing with the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline. He didn't turn into a tool of destruction and killing like Broly. Instead, he could easily control his own emotions and sanity. This might have something to do with the system. That's really great. Shin sighed in relief. It really scared us to death just now. At this point, they could feel that Goten had returned to normal. His pupils had recovered, and the restless energy in his body had begun to calm down. This power is really ridiculously strong. Goten said lightly, clenching his fist and looking at his robust body. It's much stronger than Super Saiyan 2. It's not even comparable. He felt that this form completely surpassed Super Saiyan 3, and he could easily overpower Majin Buu. And if he wanted to destroy Majin Buu, the divine power of Ultra Instinct could definitely do it. After feeling the powerful force in his body, Goten also withdrew from the transformation. By the way, Goten-san, you are so powerful, I want to give you a gift, Shin said hurriedly after seeing Goten revert to his normal form. Presumably, in this world, only you are worthy of using that thing. Kaioshin-sama, are you talking about the Z-Sword? Kibito asked quickly. There weren't many good things in their god realm. There weren't many that could match Goten. The treasures of the sacred realm of Kai, besides the time rings, was the Z-Sword. The time rings could only be used by Supreme Kai, and they couldn't be given away casually. That Excalibur had been in their god realm for a long time, and it was so heavy that neither of them could lift it. Therefore, keeping it in the god realm was wasting the use of a good tool. If it was given to Goten, it might be able to display the true value of the Z-Sword. Yes, the Z-Sword, Shin confirmed. Both of us can't handle it anyway, and Goten-san has agreed to help us with Majin Buu. The Z-Sword will be even more powerful in the hands of Goten-san. Rather than giving it to Goten, it would be better to let Goten have that sword to completely eliminate Majin Buu. You're right. Kibito echoed. Just staying in the God Realm. It really doesn't have much use. After all, neither of them could lift it. Each of the previous Supreme Kais used the Z Sword as a weapon. It was also a good time for the sword to be given to the hero. The Z Sword? Goten asked, intrigued by their conversation. But his interest wasn't in the Z Sword, because that thing was no longer useful in his hands. And with his current strength, he didn't need any weapons. What interested him was the old Supreme Kai sealed in the Z Sword. Although that old Supreme Kai was wretched and lacked strength, he had an ability that no one else had. It was about being able to help others develop their potential in the body. Gohan in Dragon Ball Z was a typical example. After his potential was developed, Gohan directly turned into Mystic Gohan, overpowering Majin Buu. That alone was enough to demonstrate just how powerful the old Supreme Kai's ability was. Now that he had fused with the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline, if his potential could be unlocked by old Supreme Kai, then his basic strength would definitely improve qualitatively. In the future, even if he met a strong person at the level of God of Destruction, he would still have the power to fight. It seemed that developing potential was something that must be done. And right now, in the sacred realm of Kai, it was a great opportunity. Goten-san, please follow me, Shin said respectfully. Kaioshin-sama, just call me Goten from now on, Goten replied. After all, you guys are older than me by how many years, and have been calling me Sir all the time, and I also feel a little bit awkward. To be honest, he always felt unnatural to be referred to as Sir. So respectfully, and he was called that by an old monster who was older than himself.
Okay.
Goten Shin quickly nodded with a look of emotion. Goten, who was so powerful, was neither arrogant nor impetuous in his interactions, and he didn't have any heirs in front of them. One must know that ordinary mortals with this kind of power would have long ruled the universe with great fanfare, calling themselves the Emperor of the Universe. So, Goten's approach naturally moved him immensely. Then please come with me. Then, under the leadership of Shin and Kibito, the three came to a very strange cylindrical mountain. Then they lightly jumped and instantly landed on the top of the mountain. And in the center of the mountain, there was a sword. Goten, this is the gift I want to give you. The Z-sword. Shin pointed to the sword inserted in the crack of the stone and said, this sword is very heavy and Kibito and I can't move it at all. I think you will be able to use it just fine. And with this sword, your strength will definitely become stronger. Yeah? Goten smiled, then took hold of the hilt of the Z-sword. He tried it, and it was indeed heavy. It was no wonder Gohan struggled so much with it that he had to transform into a Super Saiyan form in Dragon Ball Z. But now he had been fused with the legendary Super Saiyan bloodline. Even his basic combat power had already surpassed Gohan, the Super Saiyan at that time. What was more, at that time, Gohan hadn't trained for 7 years, and in Vegeta's words, his body had already rusted. Then Ganson's expression suddenly changed. With a strong pull, the whole mountain was shaken in an instant. Cracks also suddenly spread towards the surrounding area. Clang. In the next second, Goten easily pulled out the Z-sword amidst Shin and Kibito's expression of shock. He nonchalantly twirled it in one hand as if it were a mere toy. Shin's eyes widened in disbelief, his suspicions growing. Was this truly their revered Z-sword? And why did it seem like a child's toy in the hands of Goten? This is not as heavy as I thought, Goten remarked, holding the Z-sword. He waved it around a few times, creating a series of sword arcs, making the Z-sword seem as light as a feather in his hand. Shin, slightly embarrassed, responded, that's because your strength is extraordinary, Goten. Sure enough, nothing came out good if you compared yourself with others. The Z-sword, which Shin and Kibito couldn't budge, felt like a toy sword in Goten's hand. This realization made them feel somewhat embarrassed, but there was no helping it, after all. Goten's power far exceeded their imagination. Is this thing durable? Goten asked, flicking the Z-sword lightly with his left middle finger, producing a crisp sound. The sound was good, indicating the material was of good quality. If it were placed on Earth or other planets, it would be a valuable artifact. But now, with his strength being so formidable, Goten naturally didn't take the Z-sword seriously. From the beginning to the end, what he was interested in was the old Supreme Kai sealed in the Z-sword. Of course. I'm quite confident it can help you defeat Majin Buu, Shin said confidently. But since you're skeptical, let me help you test it. He then raised his right hand lightly, and a huge metal cube appeared out of thin air. This is the hardest metal in the universe. We can use it to test the durability of the Z-Sword. Goten, here it comes. After speaking, Shin threw the metal cube directly at Goten very confidently. Kibito also looked confident. He believed that Z-Sword could slice through the hardest metal in the universe with ease. Okay. Goten nodded, already knowing how awkward the situation was going to be. He then directed enough power towards the metal cube. Bang! Click! With a loud bang and a crisp crack, the Z-Sword snapped in the middle and split into two under the expectant eyes of Shin and Kibito. The metal cube, however, showed no traces of damage. Ha! Shin. Kibito. Shin and Kibito were taken aback, their eyes wide as saucers. Heavens! The divine sword of the Kais was actually broken. Kibito mumbled in disbelief. The strongest divine sword in their minds had been broken so easily. More importantly, the face slap came too fast and too loudly. Just now, they had boasted about how durable the Z-Sword was. They didn't expect the Z-Sword to be broken so easily. No way, that's a divine sword. Shin was still in denial. How could this happen? He was just bragging about how powerful the Z-Sword was. After less than a minute, it was directly folded into two sections. It doesn't seem as durable as you claimed, Goten said, looking at the broken sword in his hand with an embarrassed expression. Hearing this, the faces of Shin and Kibito turned even redder. They felt so ashamed and embarrassed. Just when the two were extremely embarrassed and didn't know how to alleviate their awkwardness, Goten looked directly behind them, because behind them, a stooped old man had appeared. He had a pair of bubble eyes, which were more than half covered by loose eyelids, narrowed into a slit, but they still couldn't hide that wretched look of his. This old man was naturally the old Supreme Kai who had just been released from the Z-Sword. As a transmigrator, Goten was naturally very familiar with him. Shin and Kibito also followed Goten's gaze. As soon as they turned their heads, they saw a wretched figure. Ah! With an exclamation, both of them were taken aback, their hairs standing on end. It was no wonder, after all, a wretched old man had suddenly appeared behind them, and he didn't make any noise. So it would be strange if they weren't frightened. But what followed were question marks all over their faces. Who was this old man? Why could he appear in their god realm? What's more, the costume he wore was very similar to the one worn by Supreme Kais. The old Supreme Kai coughed twice in embarrassment. This old gentleman, may I ask who you are? How did you appear in our god realm? Shin asked politely after calming down the panic in his heart. While he held no other specialties, he had a very good temper and was also very polite to people. Me? I am the same as you. A Kaioshin from 15 generations ago, the old Supreme Kai said with a sullen expression on his face, not impressed by their behavior earlier. But these two guys were able to pull out the divine sword from the seal by themselves. It seemed that this generation's Supreme Kai was not too weak. Shin and Kibito were shocked again. 15 generations, a former Kaioshin. Apparently they found it unbelievable they had never heard of a Supreme Kai from 15 generations ago, and they wondered how he had suddenly appeared. The old Supreme Kai immediately became popular with the two. He said that he was sealed by a very powerful guy tens of millions of years ago. Of course he did it because he was afraid of himself. Then he asked who pulled out the Z-Sword. Gosenzo-sama, in fact, it was not me, and Kibito that pulled up the Z-Sword, but Goten, Supreme Kai, said with some embarrassment. Unexpectedly, it would be Goten who rescued the ancestors from the Z-Sword. This should have been their duty, to rescue the ancestor. Ha! Trash. The old Supreme Kai first looked at Shin and Kibito with contempt, and then looked at Goten. It's a mortal who rescued me. What a disgrace to Kaioshin. But forget it. I'm already out. Since that little mortal can pull out the Z-Sword, it looks like he has a lot of power. Those who could pull out the Z-Sword would definitely not be too weak. One must know that he was sealed by that big guy. If one was not strong enough, it was absolutely impossible to pull out the Z-Sword. Furthermore, it was even more impossible to break the Z-Sword. Yes, Gosan-so-sama, Goten is very powerful, much stronger than me and Kibito. Shin immediately proudly introduced, he is the most powerful warrior in this universe, At least in his cognition, Goten was the most powerful existence. Even Majin Buu, the most feared, was not necessarily Goten's opponent. Ha! A frog in a well, the old Supreme Kai said, dismissively. According to him, if one talked about the most powerful warrior in the universe, it was absolutely impossible for it to be anyone else. It was that big guy who was sleeping. He was the most powerful existence in the entire universe. No god or mortal could compare with him. Not even reach 1/10,000th of his strength. This is not as heavy as I thought, Goten remarked, holding the Z sword. He waved it around a few times, creating a series of sword arcs, making the Z sword seem as light as a feather in his hand. Shun, slightly embarrassed, responded, "That's because your strength is extraordinary, Goten." Sure enough, nothing came out good, if you compared yourself with others. The Z-sword, which Shin and Kibito couldn't budge, felt like a toy sword in Goten's hand. This realization made them feel somewhat embarrassed. But there was no helping it. After all, Goten's power far exceeded their imagination. "Is this thing durable?" Goten asked, flicking the Z-sword lightly with his left middle finger, producing a crisp sound. The sound was good, indicating the material was of good quality. If it were placed on Earth or other planets, it would be a valuable artifact. But now, with his strength being so formidable, Goten naturally didn't take the Z-sword seriously. From the beginning to the end, what he was interested in was the old Supreme Kai sealed in the Z-sword. "Of course, I'm quite confident it can help you defeat Majin Buu," Shin said confidently. "But since you're skeptical, let me help you test it." He then raised his right hand lightly, and a huge metal cube appeared out of thin air. "This is the hardest metal in the universe. We can use it to test the durability of the Z-sword." Get in, here it comes." After speaking, Shin threw the metal cube directly at Goten very confidently. Shibito also looked confident. He believed that Z-sword could slice through the hardest metal in the universe with ease. Okay. Goten nodded, already knowing how awkward the situation was going to be. He then directed enough power towards the metal cube. Bang! Click! With a loud bang and a crisp crack, the Z-sword snapped in the middle and split into two under the expectant eyes of Shin and Kibito. The metal cube, however, showed no traces of damage. Shin. Kibito. Shin and Kibito were taken aback, their eyes wide as saucers. Heavens, the divine sword of the Kais was actually broken. Kibito mumbled in disbelief. The strongest divine sword in their minds had been broken. So easily. More importantly, the face slap came too fast and too loudly. Just now, they had boasted about how durable the Z-sword was. They didn't expect the Z-sword to be broken so easily. No way, that's a divine sword. Shin was still in denial. How could this happen? He was just bragging about how powerful the Z-sword was. After less than a minute, it was directly folded into two sections. "It doesn't seem as durable as you claimed," Goten said, looking at the broken sword in his hand with an embarrassed expression. Hearing this, the faces of Shin and Kibito turned even redder. They felt so ashamed and embarrassed. Just when the two were extremely embarrassed and didn't know how to alleviate their awkwardness, Goten looked directly behind them, because behind them, a stooped old man had appeared. He had a pair of bubble eyes which were more than half covered by loose eyelids, narrowed into a slit, but they still couldn't hide that wretched look of his. This old man was naturally the old Supreme Kai, who had just been released from the Z-sword. As a transmigrator, Goten was naturally very familiar with him. Shin and Kibito also followed Goten's gaze. As soon as they turned their heads, they saw a wretched figure. With an exclamation, both of them were taken aback, their hair standing on end. There's no wonder, after all, a wretched old man had suddenly appeared behind them. And he didn't make any noise, so it would be strange if they weren't frightened. But what followed were question marks all over their faces. Who was this old man? Why could he appear in their god realm? What's more, the costume he wore was very similar to the one worn by Supreme Kais. The old Supreme Kai coughed twice in embarrassment. "This old gentleman, may I ask who you are? How did you appear in our god realm?" Shin asked politely after calming down the panic in his heart, while he held no other specialties. He had a very good temper and was also very polite to people. "Me? I am the same as you. A Kaioshin from 15 generations ago," the old Supreme Kai said with a sullen expression on his face, not impressed by their behavior earlier. But these two guys were able to pull out the divine sword from the seal by themselves. It seemed that this generation's Supreme Kai was not too weak. Huh. Oh! Shin and Kibito were shocked again. 15 generations, a former Kaioshin. Apparently they found it unbelievable. They had never heard of a Supreme Kai from 15 generations ago, and they wondered how he had suddenly appeared. The old Supreme Kai immediately became popular with the two. He said that he was sealed by a very powerful guy tens of millions of years ago. Of course he did it because he was afraid of himself. Then he asked who pulled out the Z-sword. Gosenzo-sama. In fact, it was not me and Kibito that pulled up the Z-sword, but Goten. Supreme Kai said with some embarrassment. Unexpectedly, it would be Goten who rescued the ancestors from the Z-sword. This should have been their duty to rescue the ancestor. Ha! Trash! The old Supreme Kai first looked at Shin and Kibito with contempt, and then looked at Goten. It's a mortal who rescued me. What a disgrace to Kaioshin! But forget it, I'm already out. Since that little mortal can pull out the Z-sword, it looks like he has a lot of power. Those who could pull out the Z-sword would definitely not be too weak. One must know that he was sealed by that big guy. If one was not strong enough, it was absolutely impossible to pull out the Z-sword. Furthermore, it was even more impossible to break the Z-sword. Yes. Gosenzo-sama, Goten is very powerful, much stronger than me, and Kibito, Shin immediately proudly introduced, he is the most powerful warrior in this universe. At least in his cognition, Goten was the most powerful existence. Even Majin Buu, the most feared, was not necessarily Goten's opponent. Ha! A frog in a well, the old Supreme Kai said, dismissively. According to him, if one talked about the most powerful warrior in the universe, it was absolutely impossible for it to be anyone else. It was that big guy who was sleeping. He was the most powerful existence in the entire universe. No god or mortal could compare with him, not even reach 1/10,000th of his strength. Shin and Kibito were left speechless. They were well aware of Goten's strength, a power they had never witnessed before, but now their ancestor was standing before them, speaking in such a way that they dared not refute. Kaioshin-sama, may I have a few words with your ancestor? Alone? Goten asked, appearing directly in front of Shin and the others. He had a purpose for releasing the old Kai from the Z-sword. Although the old man was eccentric and his strength was weak, his unique ability to help others unlock their potential was unparalleled. Even the other gods didn't have such ability. So naturally, Goten wanted the old Kai to help him unlock his potential. This would give him the confidence to stand tall when he encountered truly powerful individuals in the future. Sure, Shin quickly nodded, then added, but Goten, if Gosenzo-sama says something that upsets you, don't be angry. After all, Gosenzo-sama is already very old. He could feel that his ancestor had no strength, but he had a loud mouth. If Goten was offended, with his current ability, he could eliminate the old Kai in minutes. Don't worry, I'm not a fiend, Goten reassured with a smile. Then Shin and Kibito left. Hey, young mortal, just tell me if you have anything, the old Kai spoke in a serious tone after Shin and Kibito left. Anyway, it was you who released me from the sword. If you need any help, I will try my best to assist you. Since you wanted to talk to him alone, the mortal child in front of him must have something he wanted. And I'll just say it. Goten began. I know that the Daikaioshin Sama has a very powerful ability, which can help others unlock their potential and greatly enhance the strength of those whose potential has been unlocked. So can I ask the Daikaioshin Sama to help me unlock my potential? Gotten asked in a very polite tone. Although he could use coercive means to get the old Kai to help him unlock his potential, that wasn't his character. There was no need to rely on his strength to force others to do things, because there were many ways to solve problems, and threatening to solve things by force was actually the most inferior method. However, in this world where strength was paramount, sometimes one must speak with fists. What? The old Kai showed a look of shock on his face after hearing Goten's words. Who are you? You actually know that I can help others unlock their potential. He had been sealed in the Z-Sword for an unknown number of years. Even the current Supreme Kai didn't know anything about him at all. But this young boy in front of him actually knew that he had the ability to help others unlock their potential. This was so strange. How on earth did he know? It's what I have been told, Goten said perfunctorily. Impossible. The old Kai immediately shook his head and said negatively, in this universe, it is impossible for anyone to know about this. There were not many people who knew these things. And those people were simply not accessible to a mortal. Nothing is impossible. Goten continued to fool around. If I told you that the one who sealed you in the sword told me, would you believe me? Nani? A look of panic suddenly appeared on the old Kai's face. Those slightly squinted eyes widened in an instant, staring closely at Goten. It seemed like he was trying to see through Goten. But unfortunately, Goten always had a faint smile on his face, and he couldn't read anything else at all. Impossible? Absolutely impossible. The old Kai watched for a long time, then shook his head like a rattle. You are just a mortal, and you have no chance to get in touch with that guy. That person was an existence that not many people knew about. Even the current Supreme Kai didn't necessarily know the existence of that person, not to mention a mere mortal child. But the young boy in front of him acted so confident, which made him feel like he was lying. The one who sealed you is Hakushin Beerus, Goten said in a flat tone. What did you say that he sealed you up because he was afraid of you? I think he sealed you up because he was afraid that he would be implicated if you died, right? What mean thing do you think Beerus would do if he heard what you just bragged about? Goten still had a faint smile on his face. As a transmigrator, he was naturally very clear about these things. At this time, the old Kai's complexion became quite ugly. You actually really know the existence of Beerus-sama. The old Kai suddenly looked like a deflated ball, and his momentum softened. This was outrageous. This mortal boy actually knew the existence of God of Destruction, Beerus. And from his tone, it seemed that he knew Beerus and himself very well. Or even a symbiotic relationship between Supreme Kai and God of Destruction. What's more important now was that if Beerus heard those bragging words he just said, it would be troublesome. Maybe countless planets would suffer again. And he would definitely be sealed into a sword again. He had had enough of those days. So now, can you help me unlock my potential? Looking at the dazed old Kai, Goten asked again with a smile. The tone and look were so harmless, like he couldn't even hurt a fly. All right. The old Kai stared at Goten and could only nod in the end. I'll help you unlock your potential. He had no choice, and since this guy could become friends with the current Supreme Kai, it meant that he should not be a bad guy. Even if he helped him improve his strength, it would not pose a threat to this universe. Then thank you, Daikaio-sama. Goten nodded his thanks. The expected result, there were actually many ways to get the old Kai to agree to this matter. After simple preparation for a while, the old Kai began to help Goten unlock his potential. According to the judgment of the old Kai, Goten's potential was very strong. It would take at least 5 days to unlock the potential, but Goten was in no rush right now. 5 days was no problem at all. It's just that in the other world under the jurisdiction of King Yanmama, a shocking event happened at this time. The other world was in turmoil because a large number of evil souls had entered the other world during this period. The soul cleaning device in the other world began to overload. The evil energy washed from these souls was increasing at an alarming rate. The guard, a rather irresponsible spirit, was too engrossed in his music and dance to notice the impending disaster. As a result, the soul-cleansing machine exploded, releasing a torrent of evil energy that was absorbed by the unsuspecting guard. Thus the Janemba was born. Following the explosion, a protective enchantment was erected around the Otherworld Palace, preventing outsiders from entering. However, the protection was only limited to the palace. The dead from the Otherworld were free to enter the world of the living. Well, meanwhile, on the planet of the Grand Kai, another world tournament was underway. Goku, who was participating in the tournament, along with Gohan and Piccolo, who were watching from the audience, suddenly sensed a massive surge of evil energy. Goku and Vegeta, who were in the ring, halted their match. Did you feel it, Kakarot? Vegeta asked, turning to Goku. A very powerful evil aura. It doesn't seem to be weaker than us at all. Yes, I feel it too, Vegeta, Goku replied, excitement evident in his voice. Having lived in the other world for more than 8 years, he hadn't felt such a powerful aura for a long time. Even Pikkon, the most powerful warrior in the Otherworld tournament, paled in comparison to this power. Goku felt that even if he transformed into Super Saiyan 3, he might not be able to defeat this evil aura. This realization excited him. It was a joy to meet such a powerful opponent in the Otherworld, especially since he hadn't had a chance to fight with all his strength for a long time. At this time, Gohan and Piccolo also sensed the evil energy. It was too strong, too immense. Any warrior with a bit of strength and sharp perception could sense the emergence of this evil aura. Meanwhile, the Grand Kai received a distress call from King Yenma. King Yenma reported that the Otherworld was facing an unprecedented disaster. He was trapped in the Otherworld's enchantment and was unable to exercise his authority as King Yenma. Evil fighters from Hell had made their way to the world of living and were causing havoc. Goku, Vegeta, Pikkon, and Gohan. Grand Kai addressed them seriously. I just received a distress call from Enma Daio. He reported that a major disaster has occurred in the Otherworld. A super powerful evil entity has emerged, and you should immediately help Enma Daio resolve this crisis in the Underworld. Enma Daio? Goku responded, leave it to me. As long as there was a battle, as long as there was a strong opponent, he couldn't help but be excited. This was a battle he absolutely couldn't miss. Stop kidding, Kakarot. That guy will definitely be defeated by me. Vegeta retorted, clenching his fists with an extremely confident look on his face. Hey, I won't let you, Vegeta, Goku grinned, refusing to back down. With such a formidable opponent, he was determined to fight hard. These two guys haven't changed at all. They still like to compete so much. Piccolo shook his head helplessly. He knew that the enemy they were facing this time was very powerful. It could be perceived from the evil aura just now. But, listening to these two guys, they obviously had no plans to join forces, but to use their own strength to deal with the next enemy. Okay, let's go to the Otherworld! Grand Kai urged Goku and others. If you go late, the situation in the Otherworld will be even worse. Okay, Goku agreed. Everyone grab my shoulders, we'll go right away. After speaking, Goku placed his index and middle fingers between his eyebrows, beginning to sense the aura of King Yenma. However, King Yenma's aura was very weak at this time, indicating that the situation was indeed very critical. Gohan and Piccolo quickly jumped onto the ring. I am coming too, Piccolo announced, following suit. After all, his power was not weaker than Vegeta and Gohan. He could also lend a hand. Immediately afterwards, the bodies of the 5 people flickered for a moment, and they disappeared from the planet of the Grand Kai. When they reappeared, they were already in the Otherworld. They saw huge, colorful candies all over the sky, and King Yenma's palace completely enveloped by a powerful barrier. Let's fight together. Break the barrier and rescue Enma Daio, Goku proposed, folding his hands together and preparing a signature Kamehameha wave. Gohan and Piccolo also prepared their own powerful moves, as did Vegeta and Piccolo. Kamehameha, Final Flash, Special Beam Cannon, Demon Explosive Light Flash. The 5 of them unleashed their most powerful attacks simultaneously. However, when these energies hit the barrier, there were only slight ripples. Soon, those energies were all absorbed by the enchantment. What's going on? Our attacks seem to be completely useless against this thing. Vegeta frowned, speaking in a solemn tone. The simultaneous attack energy of the 5 of them was very powerful, yet it didn't cause any damage to the barrier in front of them. This was truly outrageous. Our energy has been absorbed by the barrier, Piccolo observed. It doesn't look like it's working. All their energy just now was absorbed by the barrier. If this continued, they would not be able to break the enchantment at all. Goku, King Yenma's weak voice sounded. The culprit of all this is on the roof. Only after getting rid of that guy will the barrier will disappear, and the Otherworld will return to its original appearance. Roof? Everyone quickly jumped up and looked towards the roof. There, they saw a large yellow creature. It had a dull look on its face and looked like a plasticine toy. Does this kind of stupid guy really have that much power? Vegeta questioned, a confident smirk on his face. Let me, Prince Vegeta, get rid of you in an instant. Without waiting for anyone's objections, he jumped out and punched Janemba directly. However, Vegeta's typical arrogance led him to a swift downfall. In mere moments, he transformed into a tragic figure amidst the chaos. Janemba! Janemba clapped his hands, and the moment he saw Vegeta rushing over, his eyes suddenly changed. He slapped it out with a direct slap. Snap! Before Vegeta could react, he was slapped and sent flying, crashing into the colorful candy. Everyone, don't underestimate the enemy. That guy is very powerful, Piccolo warned everyone. Being able to slap Vegeta into the air with a single slap showed the strength of this guy. It looks like we're going to need to bring it down to fight, Gohan said, his expression serious. Then they flashed and appeared directly on the ground, and Janemba followed. The epic battle of hell was about to commence. Meanwhile, in the God Realm, the old Kai had begun to unlock Goten's potential. As time ticked away, the old Kai's expression grew increasingly serious. He could sense that Goten's potential was unfathomable, akin to a bottomless abyss. He realized he couldn't fully unlock this potential, but since he had promised him, he was determined to bring out as much of it as possible. Days passed quickly, and after 5 days, the old Kai was drenched in sweat. Eventually, he couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed on the ground. This was a stark contrast to when he had helped Gohan unlock his potential. Back then, the old Kai had been full of energy even after the process was completed. But now he looked haggard, as if he had expended a great deal of energy. Goten, the potential development is complete. The old Kai told Goten, his face weary, your potential is unfathomable. With my abilities, I can't help you unlock all of it. Seeing the old Kai's exhausted state, Shin and Kibito rushed forward to assist him. Goten slowly opened his eyes and thanked the old Kai. He then stood up and felt the strength coursing through his body. It was indeed much stronger than before. His basic combat power had improved significantly, which meant that his strength would be even more formidable after transforming. Now, he was more confident that he could easily defeat Majin Buu after transforming into the legendary Super Saiyan again. Even if Buu's strength was increased tenfold, it would be impossible for him to be Goten's opponent. Goten, show me your current strength, the old Kai suggested after a brief rest. Just let me have a look. He was curious to see how strong Goten had become after unlocking his potential. This kid had such unfathomable potential. He didn't know how strong he was now after he helped unlock his potential. To tell the truth, he would love to see it. Gozen-sama, why don't you just forget about it? Shin quickly dissuaded him. He remembered how Goten's transformation had devastated the God Realm a few days ago. They had just finished repairing it. Now that Goten's potential had been unlocked, his strength must be even stronger. He feared that the entire God Realm could be destroyed by just Goten's aura. Kibito also nodded in agreement, still haunted by the fear from before. Look at the two of you who have never seen the big world, old Kai scoffed, turning to Goten. Ignore them, let me see your strength. Okay, Goten nodded, his face instantly becoming serious. Seeing Goten's serious expression, Shin quickly moved old Kai thousands of miles away. Goten clenched his fists, and a simultaneous white aura erupted from his body instantly. Ha! After a roar, the entire God Realm began to tremble again. The tremors this time seemed to be more terrifying than the last time when Goten had transformed into the legendary Super Saiyan. But it wasn't as uncontrollable as the last time, so Goten was able to regulate his power perfectly. After briefly sensing his current basic combat power, Goten immediately withdrew his power. But even so, the God Realm was still battered and dilapidated. Shin and Kibito were left in tears. It seemed they would be busy for a few more days. The old Kai blinked his eyes, completely dumbfounded. The power of Goten just now was indeed too strong, unprecedentedly strong. The worries and fears of Shin and Kibito were understandable now. Ha! Sorry, I made the God Realm like this again, Goten apologized, scratching his head with an embarrassed smile. He had simply raised his aura and sensed his own strength just now. He hadn't pushed his power to the limit. Otherwise, the God Realm would have been destroyed even more horribly. It's okay, Shin reassured him. Anyway, Kibito and I don't have much to do. Besides, it's not his fault. Anyway, it's the ancestor who insisted on seeing Goten's strength. He could feel that Goten had been merciful just now and didn't release all his strength because he did not transform at all. Beep beep. Just then, the crystal ball placed on a table not far away started to flicker. Shin hurried over. It's a video call from Daikayo, he announced, quickly connecting the call. Daikayo, what do you need from me? Shin asked directly. Kaioshin-sama, something terrible has happened in the other world, the Grand Kai reported. Just a few days ago, a monster made of countless evil thoughts appeared, and his strength is outrageous. All the fighters on our side are no match for him, so I want to ask for help. The Grand Kai spoke directly. The current situation was far beyond their control. Goku and Pikkon had teamed up, but they were no match for Janemba. Even after Goku transformed into Super Saiyan 3, he was easily defeated by Janemba. When they were at a loss for what to do, King Kai suddenly recommended someone. That person was Son Goten, the second son of Son Goku. It was said that he had a stronger power than Goku and might be able to deal with Janemba. King Kai had informed him that Goten had followed Supreme Kai to his god realm. The Grand Kai now came to inform the Supreme Kai and ask for his help. If Janemba couldn't be dealt with, it would completely disrupt the order of the other world. Both the world of living and the dead would be in chaos. The souls of the dead wouldn't be able to enter the other world and would wander around in the mortal world. This was a terrifying prospect. How could this happen? Shin wondered. Son Goku? This name sounds so familiar. He then turned to Goten and asked, Goten, the Goku-sen just mentioned by the Daikaio, is he? Goku is my father, who died 8 years ago. Goten replied. Whether he admits it or not, it was true that Goku was Goten's father. No one could change this fact. So, that's how it is. Shin suddenly realized. Kaioshin-sama. According to what North Ko said just now, the Goten beside you is vastly powerful, the Grand Kai continued. Perhaps he is the only one who can stop Janemba, so I hope he can lend a helping hand to solve this crisis in the other world. After hearing the conversation between Shin and Goten, the Grand Kai spoke directly. They really couldn't help it. In the other world, the most powerful warrior available was Goku, and even he was easily defeated by Janemba. The other world warriors were completely unable to deal with Janemba. Is that so? Shin mused. It seems that the matter is indeed serious, but I must discuss this with Goten. I can't make the decision on his behalf. Shin knew he couldn't dictate Goten's actions. If he made a decision without Goten's consent, it could lead to unnecessary complications. Moreover, it would be disrespectful to Goten. You heard what the Daikaio said just now. Shin turned to Goten. Perhaps you are the only one who can deal with Janemba. What do you think? If Shin had his way, he would naturally want Goten to confront Janemba. This could potentially prevent loss of life. After all, if creatures from the other world were to enter the world of the living, it would undoubtedly cause widespread panic and chaos. Sorry, I can't help you with this matter, Goten replied in a flat tone. The world of the living and the world of the dead are two completely different realms, and we should respect the laws of the other world and let nature take its course. This is what my father and others preached before. The earth was in grave danger at that time, but they chose not to resurrect themselves to protect the earth. They believed in allowing the situation to develop naturally. There is no need for the deceased to continue being resurrected, nor for the living to interfere with the affairs of the other world. Of course, this is my personal opinion. If you wish to help, that's your prerogative. After all, you are gods, and these matters fall under your jurisdiction. Although he did not mind fighting Janemba, maybe he could even pick up Janemba's various abilities by fighting him. But as before, Goku and other had said that they should let nature take its course and the deceased should not interfere in the matter of the living. Then, according to that, people from the living realm naturally didn't need to go to the other world to solve the crisis for them. He felt some grudge about what happened a few years ago. The Earth a few years ago was in a very dangerous situation. Once Cell returned to Earth, it would have been the end of it. At that time, he would have been killed by Cell. Fortunately, Cell had not appeared on the planet for 8 years. But Goten was not pleased. Of course, Chi-Chi and Bulma felt the same. They still couldn't understand the thoughts of Goku and Vegeta at that time. Obviously, they could have used the Dragon Balls to resurrect and protect the Earth, but they still decided to let the situation develop naturally. This Goten's refusal took Shin by surprise. He hadn't expected Goten to decline so straightforwardly. With the combined strength of him and Kibito, they were unlikely to resolve the problem in the other world. Daikaio, Goten can't assist you with this matter. Supreme Kai replied awkwardly. So, you guys should first find a way to handle Janemba, and I will also think of a solution here. Despite being a distinguished Supreme Kai, his strength was limited, and some things were simply beyond his control. Alright, Kalshin-sama, the Grand Kai responded, ending the call. It seemed that if they wanted to get rid of Janemba, they would still have to rely on Goku and others. After the communication ended, Shin immediately began to use the magic crystal ball to observe the events unfolding in the other world. Meanwhile, in the hell of the other world, the sky was filled with giant, colorful candies. The figures of Goku and Vegeta soon appeared in sight. They were covered with wounds. After several days of relentless combat, not only had Janemba not exhausted any of his physical energy, but they had also fallen into a very passive situation. It seemed that Janemba didn't want to eliminate them, perhaps because he was enjoying the fight. That's why they hadn't been killed.
Goku, Goten has denied my request, the voice of the Grand Kai echoed in Goku's mind. He just said that people from the living realm should not interfere in the affairs of the other world, and should let the people in the other world solve it by themselves and let nature take its course. I'm really sorry, we can't help at all. Now we can only rely on you to deal with Janemba.
Goku and Vegeta frowned upon hearing this. They were well aware of Goten's strength. With his help, they might have been able to eliminate Janemba, but unexpectedly, Goten had refused. Can Goten resist fighting such a powerful opponent? Goku wondered aloud. After all, Saiyans were naturally warlike. Goten, having Saiyan blood, naturally possessed a battle-hungry nature. It was surprising that he showed no interest in such a powerful opponent. Idiot, Kakarot, Vegeta grumbled. Can't you hear that, kid? Goten's words are very familiar. That's what we said to Bulma and the others 8 years ago. That little brat is obviously gloomy over our refusal to be resurrected. Darn brat. He understood it because he was too clear about the sentence that the Grand Kai relayed just now. This was what they said to Bulma and Chi-Chi 8 years ago when they were about to revive them with the Dragon Balls. He didn't expect Goten, that brat, to hold grudges like this. Ah, did we ever say that? I forgot. Goku scratched the back of his head, apparently not remembering saying something like that 8 years ago. It does appear to be so, Piccolo nodded. Goten and Gohan have completely different personalities. Now it seems that Janemba can only be dealt with by ourselves, although Goten was also very kind in nature. But his kindness was completely different from Gohan's. Clearly, Goten was an individual who held grudges. Since this is the case, there is only one way. Goku's expression became serious in an instant. Create a combined warrior by using the fusion technique of the Metamorphs. With the strength of a few of us alone, even if we join forces, we will definitely not be able to defeat Janemba. But through the fusion technique of the Metamorphs, a super warrior can be created. At that time, Janemba can definitely be easily defeated. And me and Vegeta are the most suitable candidates for fusion. What? Fusion. Vegeta's face suddenly changed, showing a repulsive look. It was absolutely impossible for the majestic Saiyan Prince, the proud warrior, to agree to such a thing as fusion. Vegeta, the fusion between the two of us works best, Goku said to Vegeta very seriously, because we know each other very well. Your understanding of me completely surpasses Gohan's, so Vegeta, you are the best candidate for fusion. All eyes were on Vegeta, awaiting his response. If Vegeta agreed to fuse with Goku, they might stand a chance against Janemba. As it stood, even the combined strength of 5 warriors was not enough to challenge Janemba. Vegeta gritted his teeth in frustration. The idea of fusing with Goku was something he would never tolerate. Stop spouting such nonsense, Kakarot, Vegeta retorted with a vicious tone. If fusing with you is the only way to defeat Janemba, then I'd rather die. He was very proud, and after being humiliated and constantly getting surpassed by the Sun family members, his pride was hurt badly. If he had to fuse with Goku to defeat this opponent, then he would rather be killed by Janemba. Vegeta, don't say that. Seeing Vegeta's anger, Goku softened his tone. If you don't want to, then forget it. Goku knew that fusion required the willingness of both parties. If Vegeta was against it, there was no way they could proceed. Snort! Vegeta turned around arrogantly, crossing his hands on his chest. At this point, Gohan stepped forward. Father, let's fuse, he suggested seriously. Although the effect may not be as good as the fusion between you and Vegeta, it should be enough to defeat Janemba. Gohan believed that as long as the immediate crisis could be resolved and everyone could be safe, fusion was just a trivial matter. Moreover, he recognized that his current power rivaled that of Vegeta's, indicating that even after fusion, the resulting warrior shouldn't be lacking in strength. Considering fusion, the inherent similarities between Gohan and Goku were not particularly contradictory. It is our only option, then. Goku nodded in agreement. Although Vegeta was the best candidate for fusion, Gohan was also very strong. After fusion, their combined strength would definitely increase significantly. Before they had seen the fusion technique of the Metamorans at the previous Otherworld martial arts tournament. The two people after the fusion technique became much stronger than before. Therefore, after he and Gohan used the fusion technique, it should be more than enough to deal with Janemba. Rumble? Just as they made up their minds, a violent explosion sounded, and Janemba's body appeared in front of everyone again. This time, Janemba was no longer the chubby and naive creature they had initially encountered. Instead, he had transformed into a formidable figure, his body covered with red skin and a layer of light purple armor. A devilish smile played on his lips. Goku, you and Gohan, hurry up and perform fusion, Piccolo urged, clenching his fist. Leave this guy to us temporarily, and we will try our best to help you delay time. Although he knew very well that he was no match for Janemba, there was no other way. They could only try to buy Goku and Gohan as much time as possible for fusion. Alright, I'm counting on you guys. Goku addressed the trio before swiftly grabbing Gohan with one hand, positioning his other hand with its index and middle fingers between his eyebrows. In an instant, their bodies vanished. After Janemba saw the bodies of Goku and Gohan disappear, he let out a sharp cry. With a swift motion, Piccolo and Vegeta emerged and launched their assault on Janemba. Damn bastard. Even without fusion's tricks, Vegeta can beat you. Ha! Vegeta's voice echoed with determination as he transformed into a Super Saiyan and rushed towards Janemba. Piccolo and Pikkon burst out at the same time and joined the battle. But the strength of the three of them was too weak compared to Janemba. In a blink of an eye, they were sent hurtling through the air by the unstoppable force of Janemba. After Goku used instant transmission, he managed to transport himself and Gohan to King Yenma. Gohan, get ready for fusion next, Goku instructed seriously. You've seen the fusion moves before, we only have one chance. Because after a fusion failure, we have to wait for half an hour. And this half hour is enough for Jinbamba to kill us. They only had one chance. If fusion technique failed, then they would definitely be completely killed by Janemba. Gohan nodded seriously, and the two began the fusion dance. Fusion, ha! Their voices harmonized perfectly. A white light enveloped their bodies, and when it disappeared, Goku and Gohan were gone. In their place stood a large, fat man dressed in Metamoran garb. Clearly, their fusion had failed. After all, they had never trained in the fusion technique before. Moreover, it was not so easy to keep all movements and ki level completely consistent with each other. And with the situation at hand, they were unable to calm down at all. It was easy to make mistakes. It's over. The fusion of the two of them failed. The Grand Kai and the other four King Kais panicked. Fusion was their only hope. Now that Goku and Gohan's fusion had failed, they would have to wait for another half an hour. But the battle had already begun again, and Janemba seemed to lose interest in the boring battle and began to deal with it seriously. In this situation, half an hour was enough for Janemba to kill everyone. After fusion, Gohan didn't seem to realize how they had failed. Instead, with a flash of his body, he rushed into the battlefield. Everyone was shocked and fell into deep thought. Was this large, fat man the product of fusion? Why did he seem so unreliable? Damn! What the hell is this? Vegeta exclaimed, relieved that he hadn't fused with Goku. Looks like something went wrong with fusion. It's over. Piccolo and Pikkon also turned pale. After fusion, Goku was full of confidence. Pointing at Janemba's nose, he provocatively said, Hey, get ready to die, Goku-sama will send you to hell. It seemed that the products of fusion's failure would become overly arrogant. Piccolo and Vegeta subconsciously covered their faces. This chubby fat man looked so embarrassing it was too shameful to watch him. In the God Realm, Shin was left dumbfounded. Two individuals, each with a perfect physique, had transformed into a rotund figure following their fusion. It was clear that their fusion technique had failed. With their current form, defeating Janemba seemed impossible, but he couldn't really think of a good way to deal with Janemba. Kaioshin-sama, I have imposed on you for quite some time. I believe it is time for me to depart, Goten declared. The other world is in chaos, and it's inevitable that Earth will be affected as well. I need to return to Earth to assess the situation. Goten hadn't paid much attention to the events unfolding in the other world. After all, they didn't concern him. Goku and Vegeta were already dead. Regardless of their current state, they couldn't possibly die again, or could they? An interesting situation. However, ignoring them, those who remained alive on Earth depended on his protection. He couldn't allow any harm to come to his mother or Bulma. Very well, the Shin responded. Let Kibito escort you back. It might be quicker that way. At this point, Shin could only agree. Although he had hoped that Goten would assist in resolving the Otherworld crisis, it was evident that Goten was reluctant to help. They would have to find another solution. Moreover, Earth was currently facing numerous riots and crises. Goten's protection was needed more than ever. No need. I'll return by myself, Goten replied, shaking his head. He had already mastered Kibito's Kai technique. As soon as he finished speaking, his body swayed slightly before he vanished from the God Realm. What? He used Kai? How did Goten learn that? Kibito was taken aback. If Goten knew that technique, why had he been trapped in the universe initially? Goten is full of surprises, Shin mused, equally puzzled. Meanwhile, on Earth, whoosh, Goten's body materialized in midair. The planet was in complete chaos. Those who had been dead for a long time were resurrected, and the other world and the living world were now interconnected. The streets, once bustling with traffic, were now overrun with countless troops and tanks. Return to hell! Goten commanded, directing an energy wave at the formidable army and tanks below. Rumble! The ground troops and tanks were instantly engulfed by the energy wave and vanished without a trace. Oh ho ho ho! Suddenly, a familiar, smug laughter echoed through the air. It was none other than the Universe Emperor, Frieza. Goten looked up and spotted Frieza in his Ginyu Force. Go Frieza? This should be interesting, Goten remarked, a small smile playing on his lips. In a flash, he appeared before Frieza. The sight of Goten caused Frieza's smile to freeze. Goku? No, it's not Goku. Is it Goku's son? Frieza wondered aloud. The boy standing before him bore an uncanny resemblance to Goku. Even if Goku were reduced to ashes, Frieza would recognize him. But this boy was too young, so he could not be Goku. He must be Goku's son. Killing Goku's son would fulfill one of his deepest desires. It's been a while, Frieza, Goten greeted, smiling at the surprised Frieza. Despite Frieza being a villain, Goten didn't harbor any real hatred towards him. Frieza's actions were the epitome of a true villain, never pretending to be a gentleman like Frost from Universe 6. Yet, he was quite the gentleman towards his subordinates, always addressing them with respect by adding Sheen at the end of their names. Frieza was indeed a unique villain. You're Goku's son, aren't you? It's an honor to be recognized by you, Frieza responded, placing his right hand over his chest and bowing at a 90-degree angle. However, when he raised his head, his eyes were filled with intense hostility. As much as I hate to admit it, I am indeed Goku's son, Goten replied, still smiling. Whoosh! Suddenly a clear, piercing sound rang out, followed by a familiar voice. Got it! It was Krillin. In the next instant, Krillin appeared beside Goten. You're finally back, Goten. I can sense that you've undergone a significant transformation. Your strength must have improved considerably, Krillin observed, looking at Goten with surprise. He could sense something different about Goten, something he hadn't felt before. It seemed that Goten's strength had increased significantly. You're not doing too badly yourself, Krillin-san. It seems that Bulma-san has upgraded you again, Goten responded, glancing at the robust Krillin beside him and smiling. Although he couldn't sense Krillin's aura, he knew that Krillin must have undergone another upgrade. His current strength was definitely much stronger than it had been 2 or 3 months ago. Well, the original transformation wasn't completed. It was just a device loaded with infinite energy. But now I've become a full-fledged android. This time, Bulma has completely transformed me. Krillin explained, not hiding anything. The last time he fought with Cell, he realized that a simple transformation couldn't make him stronger. He couldn't be of any help to Goten. So, after defeating Cell, he underwent a 2-month transformation. His strength had indeed improved significantly. Bulma had gained a lot of ideas and inspiration from Dr. Gero when she repaired Android 16, which greatly improved her skills in this area. Even so, he knew there was still a significant gap between him and Goten. But at least when facing less powerful opponents, he wouldn't have to bother Goten. Looking at the completely transformed Krillin, Goten felt a pang of sadness. No one would willingly endure the pain of being skinned and boned to be transformed into an android and losing their humanity, but sometimes circumstances forced them to make such choices and sacrifices. What? Aren't you that little baldy that I saw on Namek? Yay, it appears that you have come back to life, Frieza exclaimed. The moment he saw Krillin, his gaze burst out with intense killing intent. He believed that Krillin was the root cause of all his humiliation. If it hadn't been for Krillin, Goku wouldn't have become a Super Saiyan. He wouldn't have been beaten by Goku for so long. He wouldn't have been chopped into pieces by that Saiyan brat on Earth. All the pain he had endured was because of Krillin. Now that he had seen Krillin again, he could finally crush him underfoot, venting the inhuman torture he had endured in hell for so many years. This time, absolutely no one could save him. As Frieza's gaze fell upon Krillin, Krillin reciprocated, his gaze sweeping over Frieza and his Ginyu Force. His eyes, for a fleeting moment, held an air of indifference. Frieza, he began, his voice steady and calm, I'm not sure how you managed to resurrect yourself, but I suggest you leave Earth. Otherwise, I'll ensure your demise here once again. Krillin's words were icy, yet brimming with confidence and authority. His power had grown exponentially, far surpassing that of Frieza. Over a decade ago, the mere sight of Frieza would have sent shivers down his spine. But now, Frieza was of little concern to him. Even if Cell were to be revived, Krillin was confident he could handle it. What? Frieza, taken aback, stared at Krillin in disbelief. The once timid Earthling from Namek, who used to tremble in his presence, was now challenging him. The world, it seemed, had turned upside down. Grit. After a moment of surprise, Frieza gritted his teeth in anger. To him, Krillin was nothing more than an insignificant ant. How dare he address him in such a manner? It seemed that these Earthlings had forgotten the terror of him, the universal Emperor, Frieza. It was time to remind them. Jifincho-san, Virtu-san, Frieza commanded, take care of this little Earthling. As for Goku's son, leave him to me. At Frieza's feet was a frog, none other than the once glorious Captain Ginyu, who now seemed to have fallen out of favor. Understood, Frieza-sama, Jace and Berta responded, stepping forward with a fierce glint in their eyes. They were eager to unleash their power on this insignificant planet. It has been a long time since they experienced the thrill of killing. Goten, Krillin turned to his comrade. Leave Frieza and his minions to me. I have a score to settle with Frieza. Krillin's words were filled with determination. Over a decade ago on Namek, Frieza had been his worst nightmare, but things were different now. The once invincible Universal Emperor was now within his reach. It was time to settle old scores. Alright, I'll leave it to you, Goten nodded, understanding Krillin's desire to test his newfound power and settle his past with Frieza. Feel the fear of hell, Earthling, Jace, and Berta roared, charging towards Krillin. To them, Krillin was nothing more than a helpless lamb ready to be slaughtered. But as they lunged forward, Krillin's figure suddenly appeared before them. Without a moment's hesitation, he unleashed 2 energy balls, obliterating them instantly. What? No! Impossible! Shai-sama and Berta-sama were actually killed by that Earthling. The galactic soldiers behind Frieza watched in horror as Jace and Berta, each with a power level of around 50,000, were annihilated by Krillin. This was beyond their comprehension, sending waves of fear coursing through them. They realized they were no match for this Earthling. Frieza too was taken aback, but once insignificant Earthling had grown powerful enough to annihilate Jace and Berta in an instant. No wonder he had been so audacious. Next, it's your turn, Frieza, Krillin declared, his eyes still indifferent. He felt no thrill in defeating Jace and Berta. Over the past decade, he had faced far more formidable opponents. The Ginyu Force was no match for him. You insolent Earthling! For Frieza seethed, You think you can defy me just because you've grown a bit stronger? You dare to challenge me? This time, I won't let you die easily. I'll make you suffer slowly. Frieza grinned angrily, staring at Krillin with angry eyes. It's just an insignificant insect. How dare it speak so brazenly in front of him? So today, he must let him feel what is called despair. The moment the angry voice fell, Frieza extended a finger, a scarlet energy ball forming at its tip, but before he could react, Krillin was already before him. Return to your hell, Frieza! Krillin roared, launching a powerful punch. Frieza's face paled in shock. He had no time to react. In the next instant, his body was blasted away by Krillin's punch, disintegrating into dust. Frieza-sama has been defeated. The remaining soldiers watched in terror as their leader was annihilated. Panicked, they scattered in all directions. Krillin let out a sigh of relief, his body trembling slightly. He had finally defeated Frieza. This victory held great significance for him, a sentiment that Goten fully understood. Goten approached Krillin, gently patting him on the shoulder. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," Krillin responded, a smile spreading across his face. "I just never thought I'd see the day when I could defeat Frieza." His words were filled with disbelief. Even after his transformation into an android, the thought of defeating Frieza, who had died long ago, never crossed his mind. Now's not the time to get emotional. Goten interjected, "There's been an uproar in the other world. Many evil souls have escaped to our world and are causing chaos. We have a lot of work ahead of us. The escapees were minor threats, but their sheer numbers and the fact that they had spread across every city meant it would take some time to send them all back to hell." "Right," Krillin nodded in agreement. The two then split up, each taking on the task of sending these evil souls back to hell. Within an hour, Goten and Krillin had cleared all the evil spirits. Goten returned to their initial meeting spot, his face etched with concern. During their mission, he hadn't come across Broly's soul. Broly, who was supposedly killed by Goten himself, should logically be among the evil souls. This left Goten with two possibilities. Either Broly's vitality was incredibly tenacious, allowing him to survive the previous planet explosion, or he had resurrected in the southern quadrant of the galaxy. Either way, if Broly was still alive, it posed a significant problem. Having fused with the blood of the legendary Super Saiyan, Goten was acutely aware of Broly's potential power. Given enough time, Broly could become a formidable adversary. Whoosh! Just as Goten was lost in thought, Krillin returned. "Goten, I've sent all the evil souls on my side back to hell," he reported. "Good," Goten replied. "I think it's time to head back to Mount Paozu. I've been away for a while, and I'm sure my mom is worried. Besides, with the recent chaos and the appearance of numerous evil warriors on Earth, returning home would also ensure his mother's safety." "I'm free now, so I'll go back with you," Krillin decided. He had already upgraded himself and had nothing important to do now. He was curious about the recent events and hoped to learn more from Goten. Upon their return to Mount Paozu, Chi-Chi, Goten's mother, was overcome with relief. "Goten, are you okay?" she asked anxiously. "I saw on TV that many people who had died before were appearing on Earth." "Don't worry, Mom," Goten reassured her. "Krillin and I have dealt with those guys." He felt a warmth spread through him at his mother's concern. It was a comforting feeling being cared for by his closest family. "Well, that's good. If anything were to happen to you, I wouldn't know how to go on." She had already lost Goku and Gohan. Now Goten was her sole source of hope and emotional support. If anything were to happen to Goten as well, she truly wouldn't be able to bear it. "Don't worry, Mom. I'm very strong now. Nothing will happen." Goten also smiled and comforted. Relieved, Chi-Chi decided to prepare a meal for her son. "You must be starving after being away for so long. I'll cook something delicious for you. Come inside," she urged, pulling Goten into the house. She also extended the invitation to Krillin, who was pleasantly surprised by the warm welcome. To be honest, he had never been treated by Chi-Chi so nicely before. In the past, whenever he wanted to play with Goku and Gohan, he would have to sneak around in fear that Chi-Chi would find out, and after being discovered, they would inevitably be scolded. But now the treatment was completely different, and he could eat delicious food prepared by Chi-Chi. An hour later, a table full of delicacies was quickly wiped out by Goten and Krillin. "Ha! So full. It's still Mom who prepares the most delicious food. Goten rubbed his engorged belly inside. The food cooked by Kibito was truly some dark cuisine compared to the food prepared by his mother. Rumble! After a hearty meal, Goten and Krillin decided to go for a walk and discuss the recent events. However, their plans were interrupted by the familiar sound of a helicopter. Looking up, they saw a pink helicopter descending. Goten immediately realized that it was Videl who came. The helicopter quickly landed in front of Krillin and Goten, and Videl stepped down. Isn't this Satan's daughter? Krillin joked, looking at Goten. It seems she is here for you. It looks like your spring is coming in. He was familiar with Videl, as her father, Satan, was a well-known figure on Earth. He had seen his broadcasts on TV, naturally. His daughter also often appeared on TV. When Krillin and Master Roshi were together, they would often watch it. Don't joke around. I bet she's here to give me a hard time, Goten replied, remembering their last encounter. Goten could only sigh helplessly. After all, the last time he saw Videl, he didn't give her a good impression. Well, I don't see it that way. Krillin shook his head. The intuition of single dogs was still very accurate. He felt that she wasn't here for a fight. While they were engrossed in their conversation, Videl walked up to Goten and Krillin. Go Goten, long time no see, she greeted him. Did Videl-san come here to question me again? Goten asked, a faint smile on his face. No, Videl quickly denied. I've come to apologize. I was too unreasonable last time. I saw you dealing with those invaders on TV, and my father also confessed everything to me. I'm sorry for misunderstanding you last time. She blushed, clearly unaccustomed to apologizing. Okay, I accept your apology. If there's nothing else, you can go back, Goten responded, still smiling. He wasn't interested in getting involved with Videl. Videl was taken aback. She had swallowed her pride to apologize, only to be dismissed so casually. It was too much. Besides, she had come not only to apologize, but also to learn how to fly from Goten. This guy, he really doesn't understand the concept of chivalry, she muttered under her breath. Is there anything else you need, Videl-san? Goten asked, looking at Videl, who was visibly tense. Looking at Videl, who had clenched fists and puffed up, Goten asked again. Yes, there is. Videl responded without hesitation. She felt Goten was being too direct. If she had told him she had nothing else to do, he would have dismissed her without a second thought. Besides apologizing to you, I also hope that you can guide me. I noticed that you were able to fly during your previous battles. Could you teach me how to fly? Videl asked, biting her lip and staring intently at Goten. She knew her father was incapable of such a feat. She had a righteous personality. She also wished to grow stronger and learn to be able to perform such impressive feats when fighting crime in the future. At this point, she had no choice but to swallow her pride and ask Goten for guidance. Goten, this is a great opportunity, Krillin interjected excitedly. I think she's interested in you. Why don't you teach her the flying technique? You might even gain a wife in the process. It's a win-win situation. The girl standing before them was adorable and cute. The girl was loaded, and although she seemed a few years older than Goten, there were definite advantages to that. If it was him, he would definitely agree without hesitation. Why didn't you teach her? Goten retorted, glancing at Krillin. Forget it, she probably wouldn't be interested in me. Krillin quickly dismissed the idea, showing a rare moment of self-awareness.
Goten, I'm a quick learner. You just need to explain the flying skills to me, and I can figure it out on my own. Videl interjected, looking at the two whispering men. Learning to fly would mean she wouldn't have to rely on a helicopter anymore, and when fighting crime in the future, she would be able to respond faster.
Videl-san, it's not that I'm unwilling to teach you the flying technique, but as your strength increases, you'll encounter more and more powerful opponents, and your risk factor will also rise. Why put yourself in danger? Goten responded seriously. Everyone faced this reality. As one's strength increased, so did the number of powerful opponents they encounter. The current Videl, at least, had the ability to protect herself and wouldn't encounter overly powerful opponents. But if she got involved with him, her safety in the future wouldn't be guaranteed. After all, there were too many powerful individuals in this world, and his strength wasn't enough to deal with those truly formidable foes. I'm not afraid, Videl immediately retorted stubbornly. Just as Goten was about to continue speaking, a familiar voice echoed in his mind. Goten! Can you hear me? It was Goku's voice. Krillin too was taken aback. Apparently he had also heard Goku's voice.
Goten, did you hear that? That was Goku's voice just now, Krillin said excitedly. Goku's voice had suddenly appeared in his head, a voice he would never forget. It was the first time Goku had contacted him in over 8 years.
Yes, I heard it. Goten confirmed. Ikeda and Krillin, listen to me. I'm really sorry, but an unprecedented disaster may befall Earth soon. Goku's voice was heavy and sounded weak.
What's going on, Goku? Are you talking about those resurrected guys? But Goten and I sent them back to hell. Krillin asked, puzzled, if it was those guys, it wouldn't be a disaster at all. Not even close to a warm-up. It seemed Goku had been in the other world for too long and didn't know about Goten and his current strength. No, it's someone far more terrifying than those guys. Goten Jinjemba left the other world after defeating us. Daikaio-sama said that its target seems to be Earth. Goku denied Krillin's words and then spoke very seriously to Goten. Goten was aware of Janemba's existence and knew how powerful it was. Janemba? Goten raised his eyebrows slightly. Although he wasn't afraid of Janemba and was fully confident that he could easily defeat it, if this guy arrived on Earth, the situation would be less than ideal. Once such a super battle broke out on Earth, innocent people would definitely get hurt. Janemba! Who's that? Krillin was at a loss. This was the first time he had heard such a strange name. That guy's strength is incomparable to Cell's. Goten, I'm so sorry, but I can only rely on you and Krillin now, Goku said in a guilty voice. If he had been strong enough, he could have dealt with Janemba directly in the other world. But, unfortunately, after he became Super Saiyan 3, he was easily defeated by Janemba. He and Gohan's fusion also failed due to a synchronization error. In the end, Janemba was not eliminated. Perhaps Janemba felt their opponents were too boring, so it left the underworld directly. According to the judgment of Grand Kai and King Kai, Janemba's target was Earth. Maybe it sensed Goten, a powerful opponent. Is it that powerful? Krillin frowned. Goku's tone already indicated how powerful Janemba was. Alright, I understand. The things in the other world have nothing to do with me. But if Janemba wants to cause trouble on Earth, then I will definitely destroy him. Goten responded without blaming Goku and the others. He was very clear that Goku and the others had indeed tried their best. In the case of fusion failure, they simply couldn't stop Janemba, and there was no use blaming or complaining. Now, please, Goten, Goku sighed guiltily. The cell created from their cells 8 years ago, and the super-perfect cell form that it achieved was due to their carelessness. It had been a big problem for Goten. Unexpectedly, now Janemba was also left to Goten. To be honest, he felt really incompetent as a father and was also very guilty. As Goku's voice faded into silence, Krillin turned to Goten, his eyes filled with concern. Goten, is this Janemba character really as formidable as Goku says? He asked. The mere thought that Goku and the others were struggling against this adversary was enough to send chills down his spine. Goku had made it abundantly clear that even Cell paled in comparison to this new threat. It seemed that Earth was on the brink of yet another calamity. Indeed, he is. Goten confirmed without a moment's hesitation. If he hadn't inherited the fused legendary Super Saiyan bloodline or received the potential unlocked from the old Kai, he doubted that he could stand a chance against Janemba. He was an entity composed purely of malevolent energy. To obliterate him completely was no easy feat. Krillin clenched his fists tightly, a low curse escaping his lips. Why do these villains always target Earth? What's so appealing about our planet? Relax, Krillin. Goten reassured him, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. Janemba is formidable, yes, but I'm confident in my current abilities. I can handle him. Videl, however, was confused as Goten and Krillin seemed to be talking to someone else, but she didn't see or hear a fourth person. Who are you talking to just now? She demanded. And what's this about a Janemba? Are you making up stories to drive me away? They must be putting an act together to get rid of me. Videl-san, it's not safe out there, Goten advised her. You should stay here in Mount Pazu. My mother is just over there, he added, pointing towards his house. With that, he turned to Krillin. Let's go. In the blink of an eye, the two of them vanished, leaving Videl standing alone, her hair tousled by the wind.
After a moment of stunned silence, Videl shook off her confusion and glanced at the house nearby. She decided to pay a visit to Goten's mother to have her convince Goten to train her. If Goten was a filial child, he would surely heed his mother's words. Perhaps then she could finally learn to fly. Thinking of this, Videl felt elated. Meanwhile, Goten and Krillin had already arrived in the airspace above West City. I can't sense any ki, Krillin noted, scanning their surroundings. I can't either, Goten agreed. But something doesn't feel right. I have this uneasy feeling that something bad is about to happen. Although Janemba was indeed powerful, but it was absolutely impossible for it to let him have such uneasy emotions. He had a feeling that maybe a more powerful enemy might appear. Krillin's face paled at Goten's words. Now that you mention it, I'm feeling a bit on edge too. Time seemed to crawl as they waited in tense anticipation. 10 minutes passed in what felt like an eternity. Then, all of a sudden, Goten's face hardened. He's here, he announced, sensing an overwhelmingly powerful and evil aura descending upon Earth. Krillin nodded, his face mirroring Goten's grim expression. I feel it too. This aura, it's unlike anything I've ever felt before. It's so powerful, so evil. That's Janemba for you, Goten explained. He's an entity formed from the accumulation of countless evil energies. Krillin-san, let's move. Without wasting another second, Goten led the way towards the source of the malevolent aura. With Krillin following closely behind, in a matter of seconds, they arrived at a desolate area northwest of East City. Fortunately, this guy did not appear near a populated area. Otherwise, once the battle started, it would definitely cause heavy casualties to innocent people. A figure stood before them, its red skin covered in a layer of light purple armor. It held a sword of the same hue in its hand, and a bloodthirsty grin spread across its face. Is that Janemba? Krillin stammered, his eyes wide with terror. His aura is overwhelming, although he had changed his timid character. But this extremely powerful and evil aura really made people unable to calm down. Yes, that's Janemba, Goten confirmed. He's even stronger than I anticipated, but that just makes things more exciting. This guy's strength felt very strong, and it was very likely that he had surpassed the previous Broly. More importantly, this guy's methods were also quite outrageous. His attacks could distort the fabric of reality, allowing him to strike his opponents with incredible speed and unpredictability. And by using spatial warping techniques, he could disappear into colorful bricks or Legos and reappear in a different location, manipulating space to his advantage. His ability to attack through distortion of reality made him a formidable adversary. He had to admit, this guy was really ridiculously strong. In the movie version, Fusion Reborn, if it wasn't for Gogeta's relentless use of Starburst Breaker to completely destroy Janemba in an instant, it would probably have been a very terrifying opponent. But now that he was out of Otherworld, where he thrived, it remained to be seen if his strength would still be so tyrannical after arriving in the real world. Krillin swallowed hard, then stepped forward. Goten, let me take him on first. I want to test my strength, and I need to overcome this fear of a strong opponent, because Janemba in front of him made him feel scared. To overcome this fear, he must face it head on. Goten nodded, but not without issuing a warning. Alright, but be careful. Janemba is powerful enough to kill you instantly. Janemba was an existence that could even defeat the Super Saiyan 3 Goku easily. Although Krillin was very strong now, there was still a big gap between him and Goku in Super Saiyan 3. Hearing Goten's words, Krillin frowned subconsciously. With a determined nod, Krillin advanced towards Janemba, who watched him approach with a sinister grin. The battle was about to begin. Whoosh! With a swift whoosh, Krillin wasted no time and charged directly toward Janemba. His speed, enhanced by his recent transformation and upgrades, was astonishingly fast. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Janemba, landing a heavy punch. Janemba, seemingly unfazed by the attack, didn't dodge. He allowed Krillin's fist to connect with his face. Boom! As expected, Krillin's fist landed heavily on Janemba's forehead, yet Janemba's body remained unmoved, a bloodthirsty smile playing on his lips. Huh, what? Krillin exclaimed in panic. He hadn't expected that his full-strength punch would leave Janemba unfazed. It was clear that his attack had no effect on him. Huh, you monster! Krillin exclaimed, withdrawing his fist and launching a flurry of attacks. His fists and kicks landed on Janemba's body relentlessly. Bang, bang, bang. But the result was the same as before. Janemba was like an indestructible rock, completely unaffected by Krillin's attacks. His body stood still, unmoving. My attacks are entirely ineffective. Krillin muttered, his brows furrowed in frustration. He knew Janemba was strong, but he hadn't expected such a vast gap between their strengths. It was like they were in different dimensions. Janemba let out a sharp laugh. He then swung his scarlet long sword directly at Krillin. Krillin reacted quickly, his feet pushing off the ground, his body instantly appearing tens of feet away. He managed to dodge Janemba's attack. If he had been cut by that long sword, he would probably have been decapitated on the spot. After stabilizing his stance, Krillin's expression hardened. His hands clasped together in an instant, making a signature movement. Kamehameha, he roared, a powerful ki blast blasting out from his palms in an instant. Janemba gently raised his hand. A miniature Krillin appeared in his palm, also performing a Kamehameha attack movement. The energy wave blasted out. What? Krillin was shocked. He couldn't believe his eyes. Before he could react, the energy of the Kamehameha wave directly blasted towards him. Rumble. The moment the energy wave exploded, Krillin's body was sent flying. He hit the ground heavily, his body immediately covered with wounds. Are you kidding me? This monster, that is cheating. Krillin muttered, his eyelids drooping. He was actually injured by his own Kamehameha. This was outrageous. Soon, Krillin struggled to his feet and jumped up to join Goten. He said, "Sorry, Goten, this guy's really too strong. I can't even come close to matching his strength. Indeed, such a terrifying opponent was simply not something he could handle." "It's okay, it's the expected result," Goten replied with a faint smile. This was to be expected, so it wasn't surprising. If Krillin could defeat Janemba, that would be a surprise to him. Goten then lightly rested his hand on Krillin's shoulder. A wave of healing energy instantly entered Krillin's body from Goten's palm. After a while, Krillin's injuries were completely healed. My injuries have completely healed," Krillin exclaimed in surprise. "That's amazing. When did you learn this ability?" According to his memory, Goten didn't seem to have this ability before. Moreover, although Saiyans were a special race, they didn't have the ability to heal. "I learned it when I was in the sacred realm of Kai," Goten replied, not hiding anything. However, he didn't disclose the process and method of learning. "You kid, you're getting more and more mysterious," Krillin said with a smile. But the stronger Goten was, the safer Earth would be. At this time, Janemba on the opposite side seemed to sense Goten's strength. There was still an evil smile on his face, but this time there was more excitement in his smile. He had come to this place by accident, looking for a stronger opponent. He had felt as if some unseen force was beckoning him to come here. The moment his smile faded, Janemba's body leaped high into the air. Holding the sword in both hands, he slashed directly at Goten. "Goten, look out!" Krillin quickly warned. Goten's expression didn't change at all. He raised his right hand, and his index and middle fingers easily caught Janemba's sword. Then with a light fold, the sword broke instantly. A look of surprise appeared on Janemba's face, but it was fleeting. After a backflip, he landed firmly on the ground. Spreading his hands, half of the long sword in his hand turned into dust. "Come on, Janemba," Goten challenged. "Let me see your strength. Just don't let me down." A desire to fight appeared on his face. Krillin, on the other hand, stepped back wisely. In an instant, he was hundreds of feet away, his body landing firmly on the top of a mountain. He knew that he could no longer help in the upcoming battle. Whoosh! In the next second, Goten's body suddenly flashed out. His speed was as fast as a ghost, and Krillin couldn't see Goten's movements at all. Fortunately, he could sense their movements, though. Key perception, so even if he couldn't see Goten's movements clearly, he could at least judge Goten's position through energy fluctuation. The moment his body appeared in front of Janemba, Goten punched him directly. The corner of Janemba's mouth showed a hint of cruel activity. His body instantly turned into small cubes and disappeared directly in front of Goten. This was Janemba's spatial warping ability, Bunkai Teleport. Such a trick doesn't work on me. Goten sneered. His left hand instantly gathered energy, and he blasted an energy wave directly behind him. At this time, Janemba's body had just reorganized behind Goten. Boom! He was hit firmly by the energy ball. His body was directly blasted out by the energy ball. Yeah. The moment he landed, Janemba let out a sharp cry. Obviously, Goten's attack just now had made him a little angry. After all, he had never been so roughed up in previous battles. A mirror-like crack in different space suddenly appeared in front of him, and then he punched out directly. Although Goten was very familiar with Janemba's attack methods, he couldn't judge the specific location of Janemba's attack. Before he could react, he was hit hard on the back. His body also rushed forward directly. As soon as Goten clenched his fist, a vibrant green aura erupted directly from his body. He instantly stabilized his figure. Janemba launched another assault, his fists blasting out in a flurry of punches. Utilizing the formidable power of spatial warping, he relentlessly attacked Goten. Bang, bang, bang. Goten was hit several times in quick succession. Truth be told, it was not easy to evade such an unexpected onslaught before understanding this unique fighting style. However, once he deciphered Janemba's attack pattern and familiarized himself with this combat method, it became significantly easier to counter. Despite being struck 7 or 8 times, Goten remained unscathed. His physical strength had undergone a profound transformation after the bloodline fusion. Yeah! Janemba threw another punch.
But again, God murmured, "You can't keep using the same moves."
With a swift turn of his head, Goten retaliated with a direct punch. Boom! In the next instant, their fists collided with a thunderous impact. An overwhelming shockwave instantly radiated in all directions, lifting the ground and causing the surrounding mountain peaks to crumble. They were pulverized into dust. Krillin leapt into the air, his body hovering in midair. Although his strength paled in comparison to Goten and Janemba, such a shockwave posed no threat to him. After the punch clash, Janemba's fist retracted. His body staggered, retreating a dozen steps. At this moment, in the God Realm and on the Grand Kai's planet, everyone watched the battle with grave expressions. If even Goten were to lose, the entire world would plunge into a massive crisis. The power that Janemba possessed could potentially obliterate the entire universe. This entity, the embodiment of all evil energies, harbored no trace of kindness or compassion in his heart. He was pure evil, bent on endless destruction. Goten, you must give it your all. You must defeat this guy. The fate of the entire universe is now in your hands. Shin clenched his fists tightly, sweat dripping from his forehead as he silently cheered for Goten. This level of combat was beyond their capabilities. Even the shockwave generated by their fight could potentially be lethal to them. All they could do now was to pray silently, hoping that Goten could vanquish Janemba. If Beerus-sama were here, he could obliterate Janemba in an instant, but now Beerus-sama is asleep, the old Kai thought to himself. He knew better than anyone that the mightiest warrior in the universe wasn't Goten or anyone else. It was Beerus. He possessed a power beyond anyone's imagination. In the entire universe, there was no single warrior who could rival Beerus. But now Beerus was asleep, indifferent to the events unfolding in the mortal plane. If this situation persisted and Goten was defeated, by the time Beerus awoke, most of the universe would likely have been destroyed by Janemba. Meanwhile, on the Grand Kai's planet, everyone was also watching the battle on Earth through the Grand Kai's ability. Everyone held their breath, their faces etched with solemnity. "Goten, you must win," Goku and Gohan silently prayed in their hearts. But, damn it, we can only stay in this place and watch that kid fight. How frustrating. Vegeta clenched his fist tightly, gritting his teeth. He should have been the one fighting Janemba. But Janemba was too strong, and he was too weak. This feeling of weakness filled Vegeta with intense anger. Despite being the most talented Saiyan Prince, he had repeatedly been overshadowed by Kakarot and his son. "You don't need to worry too much." Goten doesn't seem to be nervous at all, which shows that he is confident he can defeat Janemba. The Grand Kai comforted the anxious crowd. Of course, this was merely consolation. Everyone was well aware of Janemba's formidable power. Back on Earth, Goten and Janemba were once again locked in fierce combat. After realizing that his spatial warping ability no longer posed a threat to Goten, Janemba abandoned its use. Once Goten adapted to that tactic, it would no longer harm him. So now, the real battle had begun. Whoosh, whoosh, bang, bang. The bodies of the two combatants crisscrossed rapidly. Two black lines in the sky constantly collided back and forth. Accompanied by low-pitched collision sounds, craters appeared continuously on the ground, and a large area began to collapse. What incredible speed, what astonishing combat power. These two guys are truly monsters. Krillin frowned, looking solemnly at the battle unfolding before him. At this moment, he couldn't see the movements of Goten and Janemba at all. Even his keyed perception couldn't accurately determine their positions. Boom, boom, crackle. Sonic boom circles continued to flicker in the sky, accompanied by crackling golden lightning. This scene was reminiscent of the fall of planet Namek. Boom! At this moment, a low crash sounded again. Janemba's body was sent flying backward. Upon hitting the ground heavily, it slid hundreds of feet before coming to a halt. A clear fist mark was visible on his chest, and the light purple armor there had cracked. Evidently, Goten's previous attack had inflicted considerable damage on Janemba. Great job, Goten. Come on, finish him off. Seeing Janemba blown away by a punch, Krillin shouted excitedly. It seemed that, although Janemba was incredibly strong, he was still no match for Goten. And as he inflicted damage on Janemba, a familiar notification sound rang in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring the Bunkai teleport ability. Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring the Dimensional Hole ability. It happened this quickly? Goten was immediately surprised upon hearing the notification sound of the system. Whether it was against Cell or Broly before, he had only acquired their attributes at the very last moment. But this time, he had acquired Janemba's attribute before they had even seriously fought. But this time, there was no combat attributes bonus. But these two abilities were now more useful to him than combat power. Goten, finish him off in one go. Don't hesitate, Goten. Good job, Goten. On the planet of the Grand Kai, Goku, Gohan, and all the King Kais were intently watching the unfolding scene, urging Goten to defeat Janemba. They knew that Janemba's healing ability was formidable, and even a moment's hesitation could allow him to recover from his injuries. You don't need to worry, Goten will definitely be able to get rid of Janemba. Piccolo reassured the anxious crowd. Haven't you all noticed, Goten has been fighting normally until now. He hasn't even transformed into a Super Saiyan, which means that he is still in the warm-up stage. One had to admit that this guy was indeed a little smarter than others, and also a lot calmer. Since the beginning of the fight, until now, Goten had relied solely on his base strength, refraining from tapping into his Super Saiyan transformations. Despite this, he managed to hold his own against Janemba. Once he unleashed his Super Saiyan power, he would undoubtedly surpass Janemba in strength. Piccolo's words brought a sudden realization to Goku and the others. That's right. Goten hasn't used the Super Saiyan transformation at all, they exclaimed. They had been too nervous to notice this detail. On the other hand, Vegeta's expression darkened. Damn it, could it be that the normal strength of that half-breed brat has already surpassed Kakarot's Super Saiyan 3? Are you kidding me? This is absolutely impossible. Vegeta was in disbelief. The idea that Goten, a half-Saiyan, could surpass Goku's Super Saiyan 3 form in his normal state was unthinkable. Meanwhile, in the God Realm, despite seeing Goten gaining the upper hand, Shin's expression became even more serious. Kaioshin-sama, what's wrong? Why do you suddenly look so worried? Goten has achieved such an advantage now, and he hasn't even transformed yet. Kibito, who noticed this, tried to comfort him from the sidelines. After transforming, he will definitely be able to get rid of Janemba with ease. Shin shook his head at that, as he wasn't worried about Goten not being able to defeat Janemba. I don't know what's going on, but there is a very uneasy feeling. It's as if something bad is about to happen, he said. Obviously, Goten had an absolute advantage. If there was no accident, Janemba would definitely be destroyed. But the uneasy feeling still lingered in his heart after hesitating for a moment. Shin said to Kibito, Kibito, let's go to Earth. He felt that this unease must definitely be related to Earth. He had to go there to confirm something before he could feel at ease. Because the enemies they had to face now, in addition to Janemba, there was also Majin Buu and the magician Babidi, and they were not to be taken lightly. Okay, Kaioshin-sama. Kibito nodded immediately. Gosenzo-sama, you stay in the God Realm first. We will go to Earth to have a look. After Shin talked to the old Kai, the two left the God Realm directly. After using Kai, Shin, and Kibito arrived on Earth in a matter of seconds and appeared directly beside Krillin. Huh? Who are you guys? Krillin exclaimed, immediately adopting a defensive stance. Seeing the two strangers appearing out of nowhere, he was understandably wary. Nothing good had happened today, and all of a sudden, Krillin found himself encountering some shady individuals. The two men standing before him, with their peculiar attire, didn't seem like they were from Earth either. Krillin-san, please don't misunderstand. We're not here to cause trouble, one of them spoke up.
I'm Kaioshin from this universe, a friend of Goten's. We've known each other for some time, Shin quickly added.
Having observed them for over an hour, Shin recognized the bald man in front of him as a close friend of Goten. Thus, he treated him with courtesy. Moreover, the bald man appeared to possess significant power. Kaioshin? Goten just mentioned you. Krillin responded, gradually easing his guard as Shin revealed his identity and assured him that they meant no harm. Other than their peculiar attire, Krillin couldn't discern any malicious intent from the two individuals before him. Yeah. At this moment, the crack in Janemba's chest began to heal rapidly, and he let out a piercing scream. He was furious. When he was in the other world before, Goku and the others had teamed up and had not caused him such harm. But Goten had actually made him feel pain. This was absolutely unforgivable. Janemba, there's no more need for you to exist anymore. Next, I will completely get rid of you, Goten declared, his voice calm. He had not used all his strength before, because he wanted to obtain Janemba's powers. Now that he had done so, Janemba had naturally lost his value. Yeah! Seemingly understanding Goten's words, Janemba roared again and rushed directly towards Goten. Bring it on. Goten challenged, his fists clenched tightly as green aura flames erupted from his body. His power was obviously much stronger than before. Even without transforming into a Super Saiyan, he was more than capable of defeating Janemba. After all, the potential of his fused bloodline was developed by the old Kai. Even without transforming, the power of his base form was already ridiculously strong. As Janemba rushed towards him, Goten dodged his attack at a tricky angle and then landed a direct hit on his face. As soon as his palm pressed hard, the terrifying vibrant green flames surged instantly, pressing Janemba's body heavily into the ground. Rumble. The frenzied battle on the ground led to the appearance of a huge sinkhole, with Janemba's body firmly held down by Goten. At the same time, a vibrant green energy ball quickly condensed. At the moment when the energy ball exploded, Janemba's body warped away, avoiding the explosion. Whoosh! Goten's body also disappeared, reappearing behind Janemba in mid-air. At this time, Goten's speed had already surpassed Janemba's. Boom! With one kick, Janemba was sent flying thousands of feet away, but Goten followed suit again. Bang, bang, bang. One after another, sonic boom circles appeared in the sky, and Janemba was kicked around like a football.